Hello everyone, and welcome to the Beast fanfic. So we are back with an interesting movie on what if Goku was a Shinigami who trained under the Flash Master Yoruichi Shihoin. But before we start, I just want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel and hit the like button if you enjoy my content. Let's start the story. Chapter 1. The Untamed Spirit. The scent of scorched wood and stone hung heavy in the air of Rukongai's 78th district. Where a bustling marketplace had stood only moments before, a perfect circle of devastation now stretched nearly 50 meters across. At its center stood a young man, confusion etched across his features as he surveyed the destruction around him. His wild black hair defied gravity, spiking in all directions like the mane of some exotic beast. The simple white yukata he wore had partially disintegrated from the pressure of his own spiritual energy, leaving the right sleeve and much of the back in tatters. I was just trying to catch that thief, Son Goku murmured, scratching his head as he looked at the unconscious form of a skinny boy who'd snatched an apple from a vendor's cart. The boy lay unharmed at the edge of the destruction, the stolen fruit still clutched in his grimy fingers. Around the perimeter, residents of Inazuri peeked from behind partially collapsed buildings, their eyes wide with fear. This wasn't the first such incident. For weeks, strange occurrences had plagued the district. Sudden bursts of invisible force that leveled buildings and sent people flying. Only now had they identified the source. Stand back. The authoritative command cut through the murmurs of the gathering crowd. 3 black-clad figures dropped from the sky, the distinctive uniforms of the Shinigami, marking them as members of the Gote 13. The lead officer, a stern-faced woman with her hair pulled into a tight bun, approached cautiously, one hand resting on the hilt of her zanpakuto. "You there. Don't move," she commanded, stopping 10 meters from Goku. Goku blinked, pointing to himself. I'm not going anywhere. I'm trying to figure out what happened." He took a step forward, and the air around him rippled visibly. "I said don't move." The Shinigami drew her blade, and her 2 companions followed suit. "Your spiritual pressure is uncontrolled. Every movement is releasing destructive force." Spiritual pressure. Goku looked down at his hands, flexing his fingers. "Is that what this feeling is? I thought I was just getting stronger." A flicker of disbelief crossed the Shinigami's face. "You don't know what spiritual pressure is. How long have you been in Soul Society?" Goku shrugged, the motion sending another ripple through the air. A nearby wooden beam, already weakened from the previous blast, cracked and fell. "Not sure. Time feels weird here. Maybe a few years. I woke up in the forest outside the district one day. Been here ever since." The lead Shinigami's eyes narrowed as she assessed him. Her stance shifted slightly, less openly hostile, but no less cautious. "What's your name?" "Son Goku," he replied with a grin that seemed incongruous amidst the destruction. "And I'm hungry. Do you know where I could get something to eat? Focusing on my empty stomach helps control this, whatever it is." Before the Shinigami could respond, a butterfly with wings of deepest black fluttered between them, emitting a soft crimson glow. The lead officer extended her finger, allowing the messenger to land. Her eyes widened as she received its silent communication. "Orders from Central 46, she announced to her companions. "We're to escort this individual to Seraite immediately. Captain Commander Yamamoto wants to see him personally." The other 2 Shinigami exchanged alarmed glances. "The Captain Commander himself," one whispered. When was the last time he took personal interest in a Rukongai incident? "Not since that Zaraki madman fought his way through the ranks." The other responded. Goku, with his unusually sharp hearing, caught their exchange. "Who's this Yamamoto? Is he strong? Can he help me control this power? Can he give me food?" The lead Shinigami's jaw tightened. "The Captain Commander is the strongest Shinigami in Soul Society and leader of the Gote 13. And yes, he can likely help you control your spiritual pressure, if he doesn't determine you're too dangerous to live." Instead of fear, Goku's eyes lit up with excitement. "The strongest? Really? I want to fight him." All 3 Shinigami stared in disbelief. "Fight? The Captain Commander?" The female officer's voice rose an octave. "Are you insane or merely stupid?" Goku laughed, rubbing the back of his head. "Maybe both. That's what the old man who taught me martial arts used to say. But how else do you get stronger except by fighting someone better than you?" The lead officer sighed deeply. "Just Try not to move too much as we transport you. Focus on your hunger if that helps contain your spiritual pressure. Sure thing. Goku agreed cheerfully. So, how far is this Seraite place? And do they have food there? Captain Commander Genryusa Ishigakuni Yamamoto stood on the wooden platform overlooking the Shino Academy training grounds, his ancient eyes fixed on the peculiar young man being escorted across the courtyard below. Even from this distance, he could feel the raw, untamed spiritual energy emanating from Son Goku in chaotic waves. Remarkable, murmured Captain Jashiro Yukitaki, who stood at Yamamoto's right. His Ryutsu is completely unrefined. Yet the magnitude, it exceeds captain level. Captain Shunsui Kiraku completed the thought from Yamamoto's left, pushing back his straw hat to get a better look. And he has no idea how to control it. Like a child with the strength of a giant. Yamamoto's gnarled fingers tightened around his staff. A child with the strength to accidentally destroy half of Seraite if left untrained. He turned to Captain Sui Feng, who knelt respectfully behind them. Your assessment. The petite commander of the Onmitsukido rose, her face a mask of professional detachment. Subject demonstrates no skill in Ryutsu control, no knowledge of Shinigami arts, and no apparent combat training beyond crude martial techniques. However, his spiritual pressure readings are problematic. Explain. Yamamoto commanded. His Ryutsu signature fluctuates wildly, sometimes resembling a Shinigami, other times. She hesitated, unusual for the normally decisive captain. Other times, it displays characteristics we've only observed in entities like the Shiba Fireworks clan or certain Rukongai anomalies. You mean he's not a normal soul? Kiraku asked, his laid-back demeanor belying his sharp interest. I mean we don't know what he is, Sui Feng replied tersely. And that makes him dangerous. Below, Goku had stopped walking and was now staring up at their platform, his head tilted in curiosity. Despite the distance and the concealment barriers in place, he seemed to sense their presence. He can detect us through a captain-level concealment Kido, Yukitaki noted with surprise. Yamamoto made his decision. This situation requires specialized handling. Neither standard academy training nor direct Gote 13 integration will suffice. What do you propose, sensei? Kiraku asked. The ancient Shinigami's eyes narrowed. There is only one person in Soul Society with the necessary skills to train such raw potential safely. Captain Sui Feng, summon Yoruichi Shihoin immediately. Sui Feng's composure cracked momentarily, a flash of complex emotions crossing her face at the mention of her former mentor. Lady Yoruichi abandoned her position a century ago. She is no longer. I am aware of the circumstances, Yamamoto interrupted, his tone brooking no argument. Nevertheless, the Flash Goddess is the only one with the speed to evade his uncontrolled SP. Irritual pressure and the skill to teach him proper control. Find her. But Central 46 has prohibited. I will handle Central 46, Yamamoto stated with finality. This situation transcends old grudges. Find Yoruichi Shihoin and bring her to me. Do not engage the subject directly until then. Sui Feng's expression hardened, but she bowed deeply. As you command, Captain Commander. In a flash of shunpo, she vanished. Kiraku whistled softly. Bringing Yoruichi back after all this time. This boy must have really caught your attention, Yama-jii. Yamamoto didn't respond, his gaze fixed on Goku, who had now begun performing stretches in the middle of the courtyard, seemingly oblivious to the waves of spiritual pressure rolling off him with each movement. What do we do with him in the meantime? Yukitaki asked practically. Isolate him in the Sekiseki chamber beneath the 1st Division barracks, Yamamoto decided. And for everyone's safety, make sure he is well fed. 3 days later, in a candlelit chamber deep beneath the 1st Division headquarters, Goku sat cross-legged on a stone floor, surrounded by walls of Sekiseki rock that dampened his spiritual pressure. The oppressive environment designed to contain the most dangerous criminals in Soul Society, he appeared completely at ease, working his way through his 15th bowl of rice. Man, this is great, he exclaimed between mouthfuls, addressing the stern guard who stood at attention by the doorway. Your prison food is amazing. Way better than what I could find in Rukongai. The guard remained impassive, though a slight twitch in his jaw betrayed his astonishment. He had witnessed captain-level Shinigami brought to their knees by the spiritual draining properties of this chamber within hours. Yet this strange young man showed no signs of discomfort after 3 days. The heavy iron door swung open, and Captain Commander Yamamoto entered, followed by a slender woman with dark skin and striking purple hair cut in a bob. She moved with preternatural grace, her golden eyes taking in every detail of the chamber and its occupant in an instant. Goku looked up, chopsticks halfway to his mouth. "Oh, hello, are you the strong person they mentioned? You feel different." He tilted his head, studying the woman with innocent curiosity. "Your energy moves like water, not like his." He nodded toward Yamamoto. The woman raised an eyebrow, exchanging a glance with the Captain Commander before addressing Goku directly. "I'm Yoruichi Shihoin," she said, her voice rich and smooth like honey. "And you must be the troublemaker who's been redecorating Rukongai with craters." Goku laughed, rubbing the back of his head sheepishly. "Yeah, sorry about that. I don't know my own strength sometimes." Clearly, Yoruichi circled him slowly, her eyes never leaving his form. "Stand up, let me see you move." Goku complied, rising fluidly to his feet despite having been sitting for hours. Even this simple movement sent a visible ripple of spiritual pressure through the air, despite the dampening effects of the Sekiseki stone. "Interesting," Yoruichi murmured. "Your Ryutsu leaks constantly, yet you're not exhausted. Most souls would have collapsed days ago in this chamber." "Is that bad?" Goku asked, genuinely concerned. "It's unusual," she replied, stopping directly in front of him. "Tell me, Son Goku. Do you want to learn how to control this power of yours?" His face lit up. "Yes, I want to get stronger without accidentally hurting people." "It won't be easy," Yoruichi warned, a slight smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "My training methods are unconventional. Most students quit within the first week." "I never quit," Goku stated simply, his expression suddenly serious. "Not when it comes to getting stronger." Yoruichi's smile widened into something predatory. "We'll see about that." She turned to Yamamoto. "I'll take him to the training ground beneath Sokyoku Hill. The barriers there should contain any accidents." The ancient Shinigami nodded once. "Very well. Central 46 has granted temporary authorization for your return to Seraite for this purpose alone. They expect regular progress reports." "How generous of them," Yoruichi remarked with thinly veiled sarcasm. "Come on, troublemaker. Let's see what you're made of." As they left the chamber, Goku's unrestricted spiritual pressure began to flow freely again, causing small objects in the corridor to tremble as they passed. Yoruichi, however, moved through the waves of energy as if they were merely a gentle breeze. Her own Ryutsu creating a perfect barrier around her. "First lesson," she said without looking back. "Try to keep up." Without warning, she vanished in a burst of Hunpo so fast that even experienced Shinigami would have lost track of her. To her surprise, Goku's eyes widened not in confusion but in delight. "A race. Awesome." With that, he took off after her. His movements clumsy but powered by such raw spiritual energy that he managed to follow her spiritual trail through the winding corridors of the 1st Division barracks. Yoruichi increased her speed, pushing her flash step to levels that would leave most captains in the dust. Behind her, crashes and apologies echoed as Goku plowed through walls and startled Shinigami in his desperate attempt to keep pace. "Sorry, excuse me, coming through," his voice echoed, growing fainter as the distance between them increased. Yoruichi allowed herself a small, genuine smile. Perhaps this assignment wouldn't be as tedious as she had feared. The underground training facility beneath Sokyoku Hill stretched for kilometers in every direction, a vast artificial landscape of rocky terrain bathed in the light of an artificial sun. Standing atop a tall boulder, Yoruichi watched as Goku finally arrived, panting and disheveled but grinning from ear to ear. "That was amazing," he exclaimed, looking up at her with undisguised admiration. "You move like the wind. You have to teach me how to do that." "All in good time," Yoruichi replied, jumping down to land gracefully before him. "First, we need to address your complete lack of control before you accidentally level Seraite." "Yeah, that would be bad," Goku agreed, his expression becoming more serious. "So how do we start?" Yoruichi circled him, her golden eyes analytical. The foundation of spiritual control is understanding the difference between your physical body and your spiritual energy. Close your eyes. Goku complied without hesitation, standing perfectly still. Now, feel the energy flowing through you, Yoruichi instructed. It's like a river inside your body, connected to every part of you but not bound by physical limitations. Goku's brow furrowed in concentration. I think I feel it. It's warm, like a fire in my belly that spreads everywhere. Good. Now, instead of letting it flow freely, try to direct it. Jine containing that river within its banks rather than letting it flood everywhere. For several minutes, Goku stood motionless, his face a mask of intense concentration. Gradually, the wild fluctuations in his spiritual pressure began to stabilize, becoming less erratic though no less powerful. I'm trying, he said through gritted teeth, but it keeps wanting to burst out. That's because you're fighting against your own nature. Yoruichi observed. Your spiritual pressure doesn't want to be contained, it wants to be channeled. She paused, considering. Let's try a different approach. Open your eyes. Goku did so, looking at her expectantly. Attack me, Yoruichi commanded, sliding into a relaxed fighting stance. His eyes widened. What? But I might hurt you with this uncontrolled. Before he could finish, Yoruichi was behind him, a single finger poking the back of his head. Rule number 1. Never underestimate your opponent. I'm not some fragile flower, troublemaker. Goku spun around, but she was already gone. Reappearing 10 meters away. Come on, show me what you've got. A grin spread across his face. All right, if you insist. He charged forward, his movements surprisingly fast for someone with no formal training. His first punch cut through empty air as Yoruichi sidestepped effortlessly. Too slow, she taunted, dancing around his increasingly determined attacks. Focus your energy into your movements. Don't let it scatter in all directions. Goku continued his assault, each punch and kick missing by narrower margins as he began to intuitively adjust to her instructions. His spiritual pressure, rather than radiating chaotically outward, started to flow more directly into his limbs. Better, Yoruichi acknowledged after evading a particularly close strike. But still not good enough. She vanished again, reappearing at the top of a distant boulder. Catch me if you can, troublemaker. Thus began a game of cat and mouse that spanned the entire training ground. For hours, Goku chased the Flash Goddess across rocky plateaus, through artificial forests, and over deep crevasses. With each passing minute, his movements became more refined, his spiritual pressure more focused as he instinctively channeled it to enhance his speed and strength in the pursuit. By sunset, or what passed for sunset in the artificial environment, Goku collapsed onto a flat rock. Sweat pouring down his face and his breath coming in ragged gasps. Despite his exhaustion, his eyes shone with excitement. That was the best training ever, he panted, looking up at Yoruichi who stood over him. Barely winded. You're a quick study, she admitted, tossing him a water flask. Most beginners take weeks to start channeling their Ryutsu effectively. You manage the basics in a day. Goku drank deeply before responding. It's easier when I have a goal to focus on. Trying to contain it was like trying not to think about food when you're hungry. Yoruichi's lips quirked in amusement. An apt analogy, given how much you seem to eat. She sat down across from him, her posture relaxed but her eyes still assessing. You're unlike any soul I've encountered in Soul Society. Where did you come from before Rukongai? Goku's expression turned thoughtful, almost confused. I don't really remember. There are flashes sometimes, mountains, an old man teaching me martial arts, fighting strong opponents. But it's all fuzzy, like trying to remember a dream. That's not unusual for souls who've newly arrived in Soul Society, Yoruichi noted. Though most forget their previous lives entirely. Do you think I'll ever remember? Goku asked, his usual cheerfulness dimming slightly. Perhaps. But does it matter? You're here now, and you have a new path to forge. She stood, stretching languidly. Get some rest. Tomorrow, we begin the real training. Goku's eyes widened. You mean today wasn't real training? Yoruichi's laughter echoed through the vast chamber. Oh, troublemaker. You have no idea what you're in for. 1 week later, in the sterile laboratories of the 12th Division, Captain Mayuri Kuretsuchi scowled at the readouts displayed on multiple screens before him. Each showed different aspects of Son Goku's spiritual signature, captured by hidden sensors placed throughout the training ground beneath Sokyoku Hill. Fascinating and infuriating in equal measure, he muttered, his gold teeth glinting in the blue light of the monitors. The subject's Ryutsu doesn't conform to any known pattern. Captain, a hesitant voice interrupted his musings. The latest analysis you requested is complete. Kuretsuchi turned to see a young woman with vibrant blue hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, her arms full of data printouts. Unlike the standard Shinigami uniform worn by other division members, she wore a modified white lab coat over her black kosode, various tools and instruments filling its many pockets. Ah, Bulma, finally, someone competent, Kuretsuchi remarked, snatching the papers from her hands. What have you found? It's unusual, sir, Bulma Tenshin replied, adjusting her glasses. The subject's spiritu, Al composition shows characteristics of both Shinigami and something else I can't identify. Almost as if two different types of spiritual energy have been fused together. Impossible, Kuretsuchi dismissed, though his eyes scanned the data with growing interest. Spiritual energy types don't simply fuse. They would repel each other, like opposing magnetic fields. That's what I thought too, Bulma agreed, pulling a small device from her pocket. So I developed this spiritual resonance imager to get a more detailed view. She activated the device, and a three-dimensional hologram appeared above it, showing swirling patterns of blue and golden energy intertwining within a humanoid silhouette. The blue represents standard Shinigami Ryutsu, she explained. But the gold energy, I've never seen anything like it. It doesn't behave according to any known spiritual laws. Instead of repelling the Shinigami energy, it enhances it, amplifies it. Kuretsuchi's painted face contorted in fascination. Extraordinary. A completely new form of spiritual energy. His yellow eyes narrowed suddenly. This discovery belongs to the 12th Division. I assume you've kept this information confidential. Of course, Captain, Bulma assured him, though something in her tone suggested reservation. However, I believe further direct observation is necessary. The sensors can only tell us so much. What are you proposing, Tenshin? Kuretsuchi asked suspiciously. I should join Yoruichi Shihoin's training sessions, Bulma stated boldly. With specialized equipment, I could gather data that would revolutionize our understanding of spiritual energy. Kuretsuchi stared at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable behind his elaborate makeup. Your ambition is showing, Tenshin. Be careful it doesn't lead you to overreach. It's not ambition, Captain. It's scientific curiosity, Bulma countered, meeting his gaze steadily. The same curiosity that led you to create the Research and Development Institute. A cold smile spread across Kuretsuchi's face. Very well, petition granted. But remember, you represent the 12th Division. Any discoveries you make are mine by right. Bulma bowed deeply, hiding the gleam of triumph in her eyes. Of course, Captain, I'll prepare my equipment immediately. As she turned to leave, Kuretsuchi called after her. One more thing, Tenshin. This subject, Son Goku. Be cautious around him. Power like his always comes with a price. I would hate to lose a mind as valuable as yours to some unforeseen spiritual anomaly. Bulma paused at the doorway. I appreciate your concern for my well-being, Captain. Don't be absurd, Kuretsuchi scoffed. I simply abhor the waste of resources. Replacing you would be troublesome. With a knowing smile, Bulma left the laboratory, her mind already racing with preparations. After years of being confined to the sterile walls of the 12th Division, finally, a chance to conduct field research on the most fascinating spiritual phenomenon in centuries. And if her suspicions about Son Goku's unique energy were correct, this could be the breakthrough she'd been waiting for. The next morning, Goku stood in the center of a clearing within the training ground, eyes closed in concentration. Around him, small rocks hovered in the air, suspended by his carefully controlled spiritual pressure. Beads of wheat formed on his brow as he maintained the delicate balance required for the exercise. Good, Yoruichi's voice came from somewhere to his left. Now, increase the number of objects while maintaining the same level of control. Goku's brow furrowed deeper as he extended his awareness, lifting more rocks from the ground without disturbing those already airborne. Soon, Over 30 stones of Vari. Ouse sizes orbited around him in concentric circles, a physical manifestation of his improving spiritual control. Impressive progress, a new voice commented, causing Goku's concentration to waver momentarily. Several rocks wobbled in their orbits before he stabilized them again. Sorry for the interruption, the voice continued, closer now. But I've never seen anyone master basic Ryutsu manipulation so quickly. Curiosity getting the better of him, Goku opened his eyes, carefully maintaining his focus on the floating rocks. Before him stood a blue-haired woman in a modified Shinigami uniform. Her intelligent eyes studying him through rectangular glasses. Various strange devices hung from her belt and protruded from the pockets of her white coat. "Hi there," Goku greeted cheerfully, his momentary lapse in concentration causing the rocks to drop a few centimeters before he caught them again. "I'm Goku, Bulma Tenshin, 3rd seat of the 12th Division," she introduced herself, bowing slightly. "I've been assigned to monitor your training and collect data on your unique spiritual signature." Yoruichi appeared beside them in a flash of shunpo, her arms crossed and her expression skeptical. "Assigned by whom, exactly? I wasn't informed of any 12th Division involvement." "Direct orders from Central 46, Bulma replied smoothly, producing an official-looking document with elaborate seals. "They're quite interested in understanding the nature of Goku's abilities." Yoruichi took the paper, her golden eyes scanning it quickly before handing it back with a sigh. "Politics, always complicating things." She turned to Goku. "Keep the exercise going while we talk. You need to learn to maintain focus during distractions." "Right." Goku nodded, his face setting in determination as he redoubled his efforts. The rocks rising higher and spinning more uniformly. Yoruichi led Bulma a short distance away, though still within sight of Goku. "Let's be clear, Tenshin. This training ground is my domain. Your observations will not interfere with his progress." "Of course not," Bulma agreed readily. "In fact, my research could help accelerate his development. If I can analyze the specific composition of his spiritual energy, we could tailor training methods to its unique properties." Yoruichi's eyes narrowed, "and I'm sure Kuretsuchi's interest is purely academic, with no though. UGHT of how such power might be weaponized or exploited." Bulma's professional demeanor slipped for just a moment, revealing a flash of something more complex. "Captain Kuretsuchi's interests and mine aren't always aligned," she said carefully. "My focus is understanding the science, not its application." Before Yoruichi could respond, a sudden spike in spiritual pressure drew their attention back to Goku. The rocks orbiting him had begun to glow with golden energy, their speed increasing dramatically as his concentration intensified. "Is that supposed to happen?" Bulma asked, hastily activating one of her devices. "No," Yoruichi replied, her body tensing. "He's unconsciously infusing the objects with his Ryutsu." The rocks spun faster, their orbits becoming erratic as the golden energy surrounding them intensified. Goku's face showed strain, his control slipping as the power built beyond his ability to contain it. "Goku," Yoruichi called out sharply, "release the energy gradually, don't try to force it back in." Too late. With a sound like thunder, the spinning rocks exploded outward, propelled by Goku's unleashed spiritual pressure. Yoruichi vanished in a blur, reappearing an instant later with Bulma tucked safely under her arm, well clear of the dangerous projectiles. When the dust settled, Goku stood in a small crater, looking sheepishly at the destruction around him. "Sorry about that, I thought I could handle more. You nearly turned us into pincushions," Yoruichi remarked dryly, setting Bulma back on her feet. Instead of fear or anger, Bulma's eyes shone with scientific excitement. "Extraordinary. Did you see how his Ryutsu changed color at the moment of overload? And the energy conversion ratio must be off the charts to cause that level of explosive force from simple levitation." She rushed forward, various instruments already in hand, completely unconcerned by the danger she'd narrowly escaped. "Goku, how did it feel just before the explosion? Was there a buildup of pressure? A change in temperature? Any unusual sensations?" Goku blinked at the barrage of questions. It felt like trying to hold back a sneeze. But like, a really big sneeze that starts in your gut instead of your nose." Bulma stared at him for a moment before bursting into laughter. "A spiritual pressure sneeze. That's actually a surprisingly apt description of Ryutsu overload. She glanced at Yoruichi. His intuitive understanding of spiritual mechanics is remarkable, even if his control needs work. Speaking of which, Yoruichi interjected, we should resume training. You can observe from a safe distance. Tension. Actually, Bulma countered, I have something that might help. She reached into one of her many pockets and produced what looked like a simple white band. This is a Ryutsu regulator I've been developing. It won't suppress his power, but it will provide real-time feedback on his control, helping him recognize when he's approaching critical levels. Yoruichi eyed the device suspiciously. And it doesn't have any other functions. No data collection. No remote monitoring capabilities. Bulma met her gaze evenly. I didn't say that. Of course it collects data. That's the whole point of my being here. But its primary function is exactly as I described. I'll try it. Goku volunteered enthusiastically. If it helps me stop blowing things up by accident, that's good. Right. Yoruichi sighed. Fine. But I inspect it first. After a thorough examination revealed no obvious dangers, Yoruichi allowed Bulma to place the band around Goku's wrist. It adjusted automatically to fit snugly against his skin. There, Bulma said, stepping back. It will change color as your spiritual pressure fluctuates. Blue is stable, yellow is elevated but controlled, orange is approaching limits, and red is overload territory. Goku examined the band with childlike curiosity. So it's like a warning light for my power. That's neat. Let's test it, Yoruichi suggested, motioning for Goku to resume his position. Try the levitation exercise again, but with smaller stones this time. As Goku concentrated, the band around his wrist glowed a soft blue. Stones began to rise from the ground once more, orbiting him in perfect circles. As he added more to the rotation, the band shifted to yellow, providing visual feedback on his exertion. Now, Yoruichi instructed, consciously pull back your spiritual pressure without dropping the stones. Goku's face scrunched in concentration. Gradually, the band faded from yellow back to blue, though the stones continued their orbits, now requiring less power to maintain their positions. I did it, he exclaimed, his momentary excitement causing the band to flash yellow briefly before he regained control. Impressive, Bulma murmured, making notes on a small device. He's already learning to modulate output efficiency. Yoruichi nodded, a small smile playing at her lips. He's a natural, despite the rough edges. She raised her voice to address Goku directly. Now for the next step. Maintain the orbits while defending yourself. Without warning, she launched a series of low P-word Kido spells at him from different angles. Goku's eyes widened in surprise, but his reflexes were exceptional. He dodged and weaved between the energy projectiles, all while keeping the stones aloft. The band on his wrist fluctuated between blue and yellow as he balanced the different demands on his spiritual energy. Multitasking spiritual application, Bulma noted with growing interest. Most academy students take years to master this level of control. He's not most students, Yoruichi replied, increasing the speed and complexity of her attacks. His instincts are unlike anything I've seen before. Goku continued evading the Kido blasts, his movements becoming more fluid and precise with each passing minute. The joy on his face was evident. He was enjoying the challenge immensely. This is fun, he called out, narrowly sidestepping a binding spell. It's like training and playing at the same time. Bulma watched in fascination as the band on his wrist stabilized in the yellow range, indicating he'd found an efficient balance between maintaining the orbiting stones and evading attacks. His adaptive capacity is remarkable. He's not just learning techniques, he's intuitively grasping the underlying principles. Yoruichi ceased her assault, allowing Goku to gently lower the stones to the ground. Not bad, troublemaker. You're a quick study. Goku beamed at the praise, wiping sweat from his brow. Thanks. Having this band really helps. I can feel when I'm pushing too hard now. Don't get too comfortable, Yoruichi warned with a predatory smile. Tomorrow, we move on to the basics of combat Kido and Hakuda integration. What's Hakuda? Goku asked eagerly. Hand-to-hand combat with spiritual reinforcement, Yoruichi explained. Given your martial arts background, you should take to it naturally. Fighting with spirit power. Goku's eyes lit up with excitement. That sounds awesome. Bulma cleared her throat. Before you continue, I'd like to A few basic measurements of Goku's resting spiritual state. It won't take long. Yoruichi checked the position of the artificial sun. Take your readings. I need to report to the Captain Commander anyway. She fixed Goku with a stern look. No training while I'm gone. Rest and recover. That's an order. But I feel fine. Goku began to protest. Recovery is part of training. Yoruichi cut him off. Push too hard without proper rest, and you'll plateau or injure yourself. With that, she vanished in a flash of Shunpo, leaving Goku alone with Bulma in the vast training ground. She's really fast, Goku remarked, staring at the spot where Yoruichi had stood. I want to be that fast someday. Yoruichi Shihoin isn't called the Flash Goddess for nothing, Bulma said, setting up various instruments around him. She's the fastest Shinigami in Soul Society's history. Really? Goku's interest was piqued. Has she fought lots of strong opponents? More than you can imagine, Bulma replied, adjusting her glasses. She was the former commander of the Onmitsukido, the stealth force, and the 2nd Division captain before she left Soul Society. Left? Why would she leave if she was so important? Bulma hesitated, choosing her words carefully. It's complicated Soul Society politics. Let's just say she chose freedom over duty. She activated a handheld scanner, running it slowly over Goku's body. Now, stand still please. These readings are sensitive. Goku complied, though his natural restlessness made it difficult. So, what exactly does the 12th Division do? Are you all scientists? Research and development, Bulma explained, eyes fixed on her instruments. We study everything from spiritual phenomena to technological innovation. Captain Kuretsuchi leads the division, but, she trailed off. A flicker of something dark crossing her features. But, Goku prompted, let's just say his methods and ethics don't always align with mine, Bulma finished diplomatically. Hold your breath for a moment. Please. As she continued her measurements, Goku observed her with growing curiosity. Unlike Yoruichi's fluid, predatory grace, Bulma moved with precise, deliberate motions. Her mind clearly racing behind those intelligent eyes. You're really smart, aren't you? Goku remarked innocently. Bulma looked up, momentarily startled by the direct observation. Yes, I suppose I am. Intelligence is valued in the 12th Division. But you're not happy there, Goku stated simply, as if commenting on the weather. Bulma's hands froze above her instruments, her eyes widening slightly behind her glasses. What makes you say that? Your energy feels sad when you talk about your division, Goku explained, pointing to his chest. Like it gets heavier right here. For a moment, Bulma stared at him in genuine surprise. You can sense emotional states through spiritual pressure. Without training, Goku shrugged. Is that special? Feelings are just another kind of energy, right? A slow smile spread across Bulma's face. Not the professional, measured expression she'd worn before, but something more genuine. Goku, you have no idea how extraordinary you are, do you? Before he could respond, a distant explosion rocked the training ground, followed by a surge of unfamiliar spiritual pressure that made both of them tense. What was that? Goku asked, immediately alert. Bulma's expression turned grave as she quickly packed her equipment. Trouble. That spiritual signature, it's not Shinigami. Is it an enemy? Goku was already moving toward the source of the disturbance, his body instinctively preparing for combat. Wait, Bulma called after him. You're not ready to face hollows yet. Your training has barely begun. But Goku was already running, his spiritual pressure swirling around him with newfound purpose. If something's attacking, I have to help. Yoruichi said my power could hurt people accidentally. Now I can use it on purpose to protect them. Bulma hesitated only briefly before racing after him, cursing under her breath. Yoruichi is going to kill me if I let her student get eaten by a hollow on day 8 of training. At the far edge of the training facility, a massive gash had torn through the dimensional barriers that separated the training ground from Soul Society proper. Through this rift poured several dark shapes, monstrous creatures with bone-white masks and holes where their hearts should be. Manos Grande. Bulma breathed in horror as she and Goku crested a rise overlooking the breach. How did they break through the barriers? Before them stood 5 towering hollows, each over 20 meters tall with elongated bodies wrapped in black robes. Their blank mask faces turned in unison toward Goku, as if sensing the rich spiritual energy emanating from him. "What are those things?" Goku asked, his voice hushed but not fearful. "Jillian-class Manos," Bulma explained quickly, activating a communication device on her wrist. "They're conglomerate hollows formed from hundreds of lesser spirits. One is dangerous enough to threaten a seated officer, 5 is a disaster." The lead Manos opened its mouth, red energy gathering in preparation for a devastating Sero blast. "Get down," Bulma shouted, grabbing Goku's arm. But instead of retreating, Goku stepped forward, his eyes narrowing as he assessed the threat. The Ryutsu band on his wrist pulsed yellow, then orange as he instinctively gathered his spiritual energy. "They're going to attack innocent people if they get out of here," he stated, his voice suddenly calmer. More focused than Bulma had heard before. "I can't let that happen." "Goku. No, you don't even have a Zanpakuto yet." Bulma protested desperately. "We need to wait for reinforcements." The Manos fired its Sero, a massive beam of destructive red energy hurtling directly toward them. In that instant, Goku made his decision. "Get back, Bulma," he commanded, his entire demeanor shifting from carefree to intensely serious. With a primal shout, he threw himself forward, directly into the path of the oncoming Sero. Bulma screamed his name, certain she was witnessing his death. But what happened next defied all her scientific understanding. As the Sero struck, Goku didn't dodge, he met it head-on, his hands thrust forward as if to physically stop the energy beam. His spiritual pressure exploded outward, the band on his wrist blazing bright red as golden energy surrounded his body in a radiant aura. For a moment, the Sero's progress halted, caught Betwi and its source in Goku's outstretched hands. The ground beneath his feet cracked and cratered from the pressure as he struggled against the immense force. "This is heavy," Goku grunted through clenched teeth, his arms trembling with effort. Then, with a roar that seemed to shake the very foundations of the training ground, he pushed back, deflecting the Sero upward into the artificial sky, where it exploded in a spectacular display of crimson light. The Manos recoiled, their empty eye sockets somehow conveying confusion at this unexpected resistance. Bulma stood frozen in shock, her scientific mind struggling to process what she had just witnessed. "Impossible," she whispered. He deflected a Jillian Sero with raw spiritual pressure alone. Without Kido, without a Zanpakuto. Goku didn't hear her. His focus was entirely on the Manos before him, his body dropping into a fighting stance that seemed instinctual rather than learned. The golden aura around him pulsed and swirled, responding to his will more directly than any trained Shinigami's Ryutsu Bulma had ever observed. "My turn," Goku declared, his voice echoing with newfound power. He launched himself forward with explosive speed, closing the distance to the nearest Manos in the blink of an eye. His first strike, a simple, direct punch, connected with the creature's mask with such force that cracks spread across its white surface like a spiderweb. The Manos screamed, a high-pitched wail that echoed throughout the training ground. Its massive hand swung down to crush the tiny figure attacking it, but Goku was already gone. Moving with speed that belied his lack of formal Shunpo training, he reappeared above a second Manos, descending with a powerful kick that snapped its head back violently. As he rebounded from the impact, his instincts warned him of danger. 2 more Manos had fired their Seros simultaneously, the beams converging on his airborne position. With no ground to push against, Goku did something that should have been impossible. He kicked against the air itself, his spiritual pressure creating a momentary platform that launched him clear of the deadly beams. He's using Ryutsu to solidify the air, Bulma realized, her scientific curiosity momentarily overriding her fear. A rudimentary form of Shunpo, developed instinctively in combat. The remaining Manos coordinated their attacks, surrounding Goku with a barrage of physical strikes and energy blasts. Though he dodged most, one glancing blow sent him tumbling across the rocky terrain. He rose quickly, dusty but unharmed, a grin spreading across his face. "You guys are pretty tough. This is getting interesting." "Is he enjoying this?" Bulma murmured incredulously. The answer came in Goku's next move. Rather than retreating or defending, he charged directly into the center of the Manos group, his spiritual pressure condensing around his body until he resembled a golden comet streaking across the battlefield. "Here goes nothing," he shouted, leaping high into the air. At the apex of his jump, he brought his hands to his side, cupping them as if holding something precious. Golden energy gathered between his palms, growing more intense by the second. What is he doing? Bulma wondered aloud, her instruments going haywire from the massive spiritual pressure buildup. With perfect clarity, as if he'd performed the move 1,000 times before. Goku thrust his hands forward toward the clustered Manos. Ha! The primal shout accompanied a massive beam of golden energy that erupted from his palms, dwarfy. Ing even the Manos, Ceros in its intensity. The blast struck the lead hollow square in its mask, punching through it and continuing onward to damage the others behind it. The lead Manos disintegrated instantly, its spiritual particles scattering like black snow. The others reeled backward, masks cracked and bodies smoking from the unprecedented attack. Goku landed in a crouch, his breathing heavy but controlled. The band on his wrist had shattered from the energy surge, its pieces falling to the ground like broken glass. One down, he panted, rising to face the remaining hollows. 4 to go. Before he could launch another attack, a flash of movement caught his eye. A slender figure with purple hair materialized beside him, golden eyes narrowed in a mixture of concern and irritation. I leave for 30 minutes. Yoruichi remarked dryly, and you pick a fight with 5 Jillians. Impressive and reckless in equal measure. Yoruichi, Goku exclaimed, his face lighting up despite the danger. Did you see that energy blast? I don't know how I did it, but it felt right somehow. I saw, she confirmed, her expression softening slightly. We'll discuss your spontaneous keto innovation later. For now, she turned to face the recovering Manos, her body shifting into a combat stance. Let me show you how a trained Shinigami handles this situation. What followed was a masterclass in Shinigami combat. Yoruichi moved so fast she seemed to be in multiple places at once, her body nothing but a blur as she systematically dismantled the remaining Manos with precise strikes to their masks. Where Goku's attack had been powerful but raw, Yoruichi's was refined to perfection. No wasted movement, no excess spiritual pressure, just pure lethal efficiency. In less than 30 seconds, the remaining Manos crumbled into spirit particles, their masks shattered beyond recognition. Yoruichi returned to Goku's side, not even breathing hard from the exertion. And that, troublemaker, is why we train before picking fights with hollows. Instead of being humbled, Goku's eyes shone with admiration and excitement. That was amazing. You have to teach me how to move like that. AAS. Maul's smile tugged at Yoruichi's lips despite her attempt to maintain a stern expression. All in good time. First, perhaps you'd like to explain why you ignored my direct order to rest. Before Goku could respond, Bulma joined them, her scientific equipment still recording frantically. It wasn't his fault, she interjected. The barrier breach happened suddenly. There was no time to find you. Yoruichi's golden eyes narrowed, and yet you had time to follow him into danger rather than activating the emergency protocols. Bulma had the grace to look sheepish. Scientific curiosity. Besides, I thought I could keep him safe until help arrived. How did that work out? Yoruichi asked sarcastically. Better than expected, actually, Bulma replied, her excitement returning as she gestured to her data readouts. Do you realize what he just did? He deflected a Cero with his bare hands, developed an instinctive form of aerial shunpo under pressure, and performed what appears to be a completely original Keto technique without an incantation or even formal training. Yoruichi's expression became thoughtful as she turned back to Goku, who was examining his shattered Ryutsu band with a mixture of curiosity and disappointment. Sorry about breaking your gadget, Bulma, he said, offering her the pieces. I didn't mean to overload it. Are you kidding? This is invaluable data, Bulma exclaimed, carefully collecting the fragments. The way your spiritual pressure manifested during combat was unlike anything in our records. It wasn't just an increase in volume, it was a fundamental change in quality. Yoruichi placed a hand on Goku's shoulder, her touch gentle but firm. You fought well for someone with 8 days of training, she admitted. But don't let it go to your head. Those were just Jillians, the weakest class of Manos. There are far more dangerous hollows out there. Goku nodded, suddenly serious. I could feel it. They were strong, but empty somehow. Like they were missing something important. Yoruichi and Bulma exchanged surprised glances. You sense that? Yoruichi asked carefully. Most Shinigami only perceive hollows as malevolent spiritual entities. The emptiness you described, that's an advanced perception usually limited to captains and spiritual experts. Goku shrugged. It just seemed obvious. They had these big holes in their chests, and their masks felt like shields hiding something sad underneath. A thoughtful silence fell over the group, broken only by the distant sound of approaching reinforcements, too late for the battle but right on time for the cleanup. The Captain Commander will want a full report, Yoruichi sighed. And Central 46 will have questions about your spontaneous combat abilities. Will I be in trouble? Goku asked, genuinely concerned. Yoruichi's lips curved into a mischievous smile. Probably. But they'll be too intrigued by your potential to do anything drastic. She glanced at Bulma. I assume you recorded everything. Bulma nodded, patting her devices. Every spiritual fluctuation, every technique. It's all here. Good. Then let's go face the music. Yoruichi started walking toward the approaching Shinigami, but paused when she noticed Goku wasn't following. Coming, troublemaker. Goku stood motionless, his head tilted as if listening to something only he could hear. There's something else, he said quietly. Something, calling me. Before either woman could respond, he closed his eyes and plunged his hand into empty air, except it wasn't empty. His fingers seemed to catch on something invisible, pulling it into reality with a sound like tearing silk. A shaft of red light materialized in his grip, condensing and solidifying into a staff of polished crimson wood. Intricate, golden patterns spiraled along its length, glowing faintly with suppressed power. Nyoibo, Goku whispered, the name coming to him unbidden. That's what you're called, isn't it? The staff pulsed once in response, as if alive and aware. Yoruichi's eyes widened in genuine shock. He manifested a Zanpakuto without an Asachi. Without the ritual or training. Is that unusual too? Goku asked, examining his new weapon with childlike wonder. Unusual doesn't begin to cover it, Bulma breathed, her instruments whirring frantically to capture this new development. It's supposed to be impossible. Yoruichi moved closer, studying the Zanpakuto with expert eyes. A full manifestation, not just an imprint or temporary form. Her gaze moved to Goku's face, searching. You heard its name, Nyoibo. Goku nodded, spinning the staff experimentally. It responded perfectly to his touch, extending and contracting at his will as if it had always been a part of him. It feels right, like I've always had it but just forgot for a while. The approaching Shinigami were close now, their voices carrying across the training ground as they assessed the aftermath of the Maino's attack. Yoruichi made a quick decision. Bulma, your data stays between us for now. No reports to Kuretsuchi until I've spoken with the Captain Commander. Her tone brooked no argument. To her surprise, Bulma readily agreed. My thoughts exactly. This discovery is too significant to risk premature exposure. She hesitated, then added more quietly, besides, some things should remain beyond the reach of certain experimental interests. Yoruichi nodded in understanding before turning back to Goku. As for you, troublemaker, it seems your training just got a lot more interesting. She gestured to the Zanpakuto in his hands. That's not just a weapon, it's a part of your soul-made manifest. Learning to truly wield it will be your greatest challenge yet. Goku's face split into a wide, genuine grin that made him look both younger and more determined. I can't wait. As the first members of the response team reached them, Yoruichi couldn't help but smile at his enthusiasm. In just over a week, T's strange soul had defied nearly every established principle of Shinigami development. What might he accomplish with proper training? For the first time in decades, Yoruichi Shihoin felt a spark of genuine excitement. Perhaps her return to Soul Society wouldn't be as tedious as she had feared after all. Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, Awakening Blade. Cherry blossoms drifted lazily across the courtyard of the 13th Division, their pale pink petals creating a stark contrast against the pristine white stone. 6 months had passed since Goku's impromptu battle with the Jillians, and spring had transformed the austere military compound into something resembling a painting from the human world. Seated beneath a particularly ancient cherry tree, Rukia Kuchiki methodically completed her brush strokes on an official report. Her small hands moved with practiced precision across the rice paper, each character formed with the perfect calligraphy expected of a noble family member. A faint crease, a P paired between her brows as distant shouts disrupted her concentration. Again, Yoruichi's voice carried across the division grounds. Your stance is still too rigid. I'm trying, came Goku's frustrated response, followed by the distinctive sound of wood striking stone. Rukia's brush paused momentarily before continuing its path across the paper. 6 months of this, 6 months of the strange outsider disrupting the carefully ordered routines of the Gote 13 with his unorthodox training methods and baffling spiritual anomalies. 6 months of whispers and speculation among the ranks. 6 meters. Once of her captain's unusual interest in this untrained soul with captain-level spiritual pressure. With a small sigh, Rukia completed her report and set it aside to dry. Duty required her presence at today's training session, though she'd managed to delay it with legitimate paperwork until now. Rising gracefully, she adjusted her uniform and secured her zanpakuto at her side before making her way toward the special training area Captain Yukitake had allocated for Goku's use. The gentle tranquility of the cherry blossoms gave way to controlled chaos as she approached the training ground. On CE, a perfectly manicured meditation garden, now resembled a war zone. Craters pockmarked the earth, and several practice dummies had been reduced to smoldering piles of straw and fabric. In the center of the destruction stood Son Goku, his black Shinigami uniform torn and singed in multiple places. Sweat poured down his face as he gripped his unusual zanpakuto, a staff rather than a sword, with both hands. Across from him, Yoruichi Shihoin lounged atop a boulder, her posture deceptively casual though her golden eyes missed nothing. Your problem, Yoruichi was saying, is that you're trying to fight like a traditional Shinigami when your instincts clearly pull you in another direction. But I am a Shinigami, Goku protested, wiping sweat from his brow. Shouldn't I learn the proper techniques? You're a Shinigami with the soul of something else, Yoruichi corrected, her sharp gaze flicking briefly to Rukia as the petite Shinigami entered the training ground. Ah, finally decided to join us, Kuchiki. Rukia bowed formally, her face a perfect mask of Kuchiki dignity. Captain Yukitake requested I observe today's session and provide input regarding keto integration, Lady Shihoin. Drop the lady nonsense, Yoruichi replied with a dismissive wave. Those titles don't apply to exiles. Goku straightened, his expression brightening at the newcomer. Hey there, you're Rukia, right? I've seen you around the division. Quote, Rukia inclined her head slightly, maintaining professional distance. Yes, we've been introduced at Captain Yukitake's officer meetings. Great, maybe you can help me figure out this keto stuff, Goku said enthusiastically. Yoruichi says my spiritual pressure is too wild for traditional incantations, but Captain Yukitake thinks I should keep trying. Ruck. Ia's violet eyes assessed him critically. Though he wore the standard Shinigami uniform, everything else about him defied convention. His hair, wild and spiky, had grown even more unruly during his months of training. The zanpakuto he wielded resembled no blade she'd ever seen, instead taking the form of a red staff with golden patterns that seemed to shift and change when viewed from different angles. Most concerning was his casual attitude toward figures of authority and Shinigami traditions. Keto requires discipline and precision, she stated firmly. It's not simply about power. That's what I keep telling him. Yoruichi agreed, stretching languidly. But our troublemaker here thinks he can overcome any obstacle with raw spiritual pressure and enthusiasm. Hey, that's worked pretty well so far, Goku protested good-naturedly. Rukia's expression remained unmoved. Against training dummies, perhaps. Against real opponents with centuries of experience, such recklessness would prove fatal. Instead of being offended, Goku regarded her with genuine curiosity. You're really serious about all this, aren't you? The duties of a Shinigami are not to be taken lightly, Rukia replied stiffly. We maintain the balance between worlds. One mistake, one moment of carelessness, can result in catastrophic consequences. Yoruichi rolled her eyes. And this is why I suggested the 11th Division might be a better fit for your training, troublemaker. Less lecturing, more fighting. Captain Yukitake believes the 13th Division's balanced approach is more appropriate, Rukia countered. A hint of defensiveness creeping into her tone, especially given the subject's unusual spiritual composition. The subject has a name, Goku pointed out, leaning on his staff. And I'm standing right here. A faint flush colored Rukia's cheeks. I apologize for the impersonal reference, trainee son. Just Goku is fine, he insisted with a warm smile. Before Rukia could respond, a hell butterfly fluttered into the training ground, its black wings iridescent in the afternoon sunlight. It danced around Yoruichi briefly before settling on her extended finger. The Flash God. SS's expression grew serious as she received the message. Interesting timing, she murmured, allowing the butterfly to depart. It seems Central 46 is finally ready to test our troublemaker's combat readiness. We have assignment orders for a hollow extermination mission in the human world. Already, Rukia couldn't hide her surprise. But he hasn't even achieved Shikai yet. Actually, Goku began. That's precisely the point, Yoruichi interrupted smoothly. They want to evaluate his combat effectiveness with his current abilities. The mission is scheduled for tomorrow morning. Rukia's brow furrowed. This is highly irregular. Standard protocol requires at least basic certification in all 4 combat disciplines before field deployment. Nothing about Goku has been standard protocol. Yoruichi reminded her with a wry smile. Besides, the mission parameters specify that he'll be accompanied by qualified officers. She glanced at Rukia meaningfully. Specifically, you and me. Me. Rukia's composure slipped momentarily. But surely someone of higher rank. Captain Yukitaki recommended you personally, Yoruichi cut in. Something about your experience with the living world making you an ideal guide for a first mission. Goku spun his staff excitedly. A real mission to the human world. Against actual hollows. That's more like it. Rukia fixed him with a stern look. This isn't a game. Hollows are dangerous predators that devour souls. One mistake could cost innocent lives. I know they're dangerous, Goku replied, his expression suddenly serious. I fought those Manos, remember? I felt what they were, empty, hungry spirits looking to fill a void they don't understand. The insight caught Rukia off guard. For a brief moment, she glimpsed something beyond the carefree exterior, a depth of understanding that seemed incongruous with his typically childlike enthusiasm. Yoruichi clapped her hands once, breaking the moment. The mission briefing is at dawn tomorrow. For now, let's see if you've made any progress with your Zanpakuto communication. She nodded toward Rukia, perhaps a demonstration for our Kuchiki observer. Goku nodded, taking a deep breath as he closed his eyes. He held Nyoibo horizontally before him, his spiritual pressure visibly condensing around the staff. Unlike the chaotic waves that had characterized his early training, his Ryutsu now flowed more smoothly. Still immensely powerful but with growing refinement. He's improved, Rukia acknowledged quietly to Yoruichi. His spiritual pressure is less abrasive. 6 months of daily meditation will do that, Yoruichi replied, watching her student with evident pride. Though he still struggles with the more subtle aspects. Before them, Goku had entered a deep meditative state, his consciousness reaching inward to commune with his Zanpakuto spirit. This exercise had become a daily ritual, though the results remained frustratingly inconsistent. Nyoibo, he whispered, the name resonating with harmonics that vibrated through the training ground. Show me your true form. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a soft crimson glow enveloped the staff, pulsing like a heartbeat. The golden patterns along its length began to move, flowing like liquid metal across the surface. Come on, Goku urged, his brow furrowing with concentration. I know you can hear me. The glow intensified, and the staff extended slightly, as if responding to his call. But the full transformation, the true release of Shikai that Goku had been striving for, remained elusive. After several tense moments, the glow faded, and the staff returned to its passive state. Goku opened his eyes, disappointment evident on his face. Still not there yet, but closer, Yoruichi observed. The resonance was stronger this time. Rukia's analytical mind couldn't help but note the anomalies. The partial response is unusual. Typically, a Zanpakuto either responds fully to its wielder's call or not at all. This partial activation suggests something is blocking the complete connection. Or that his Zanpakuto is as unconventional as he is, Yoruichi suggested. Remember, Hema knives. TED it without an Asachi or formal academy training. The normal rules may not apply. Goku planted his staff on the ground with a sigh. Nyoibo speaks to me sometimes, in dreams, or during intense training. But it's like, we're speaking different languages. I can feel what he wants to tell me, but the words get lost. Rukia inquired, professional curiosity overcoming her reserve. Yeah, he feels masculine, playful but wise. Like an old martial arts master I almost remember. Goku's expression turned distant, as if reaching for a memory just beyond his grasp. Sometimes, when I close my eyes, I see mountains and clouds. And a figure with a monkey's tail leaping between them. Rukia and Yoruichi exchanged significant glances. A monkey king, Yoruichi mused. Interesting mythological reference. The Monkey King is a prominent figure in several living world cultural traditions, Rukia noted, her scholarly nature emerging. Associated with rebellion, mischief, and great power held in check by spiritual discipline. Quote, Goku looked between them, confused. You think my Zanpakuto spirit is based on a living world myth? Zanpakuto spirits often reflect aspects of their wielder's soul through archetypal imagery. Rukia explained. If your spirit presents as a Monkey King figure, it suggests your soul resonates with those attributes. Rebellious, mischievous, and powerful. Goku grinned. Sounds about right. With a critical lack of discipline, Rukia added pointedly. Rather than taking offense, Goku laughed. That's probably why we're having communication problems. Nyoibo keeps trying to teach me patience, but I keep wanting to skip to the exciting parts. Yoruichi stood, stretching like her feline alter ego. Perhaps tomorrow's mission will provide the catalyst you need. Real combat has a way of clarifying the bond between Shinigami and Zanpakuto. She glanced at the position of the sun. That's enough for today. Rest well, both of you. Dawn comes early. As Yoruichi departed in a flash of shunpo, Rukia found herself alone with Goku for the first time. An awkward silence fell between them. So, Goku began, rubbing the back of his head, you've been a Shinigami for a long time, right? By human standards, yes, Rukia replied cautiously. Though in Soul Society terms, I am still relatively young for a seated officer. And you use ice techniques. I heard some of the division members talking about your Zanpakuto, sounds pretty amazing. A faint flicker of pride crossed Rukia's features. Soda no Shirayuki is the most beautiful ice-type Zanpakuto in Soul Society. The moment of warmth vanished as quickly as it had appeared. But power means nothing without the discipline to wield it properly. Goku propped his staff against his shoulder, studying her with unexpected perceptiveness. You really believe in all this, don't you? The rules, the traditions, the proper way to do things. Of course, Rukia responded, surprised by the question. Structure and discipline are what separate Shinigami from hollows, what allow us to use our power responsibly rather than destructively. But what if the rules sometimes get in the way of doing what's right? Goku asked, his expression uncommonly serious. The question struck uncomfortably close to doubts Rukia occasionally harbored but never voiced. The rules exist for a reason, she stated firmly. Centuries of Shinigami experience have shaped our protocols to maintain balance between worlds. Goku seemed unconvinced but didn't press the issue. Instead, he asked, could you show me? Your Shikai, I mean. Maybe seeing a proper release would help me understand what I'm missing. Rukia hesitated. She rarely released her Zanpakuto for demonstration purposes. But there was something earnest in his request that made refusal feel petty. Very well, she conceded, drawing her blade with fluid grace. But observe carefully. This is not a performance, it's an educational demonstration. Holding her Zanpakuto before her, Rukia closed her eyes briefly, centering herself. When she opened them, her spiritual presence had shifted subtly, becoming cooler and more focused. Dance, Soda no Shirayuki, she commanded, her voice clear and confident. The transformation was breathtaking. Her Zanpakuto gleamed as the blade, hilt, and tsuba turned a pure, crystalline white. A long white ribbon flowed from the pommel, dancing around her as if moved by an invisible breeze. The temperature in the training ground dropped noticeably, and frost patterns formed on the ground around her feet. Goku's eyes widened in genuine appreciation. Wow, that's incredible. He circled her, examining the transformed Zanpakuto from different angles. It's like your whole spiritual pressure changed when you released it. The release of Shikai represents harmony between Shinigami and Zanpakuto, Rukia explained, allowing herself a moment of pride in her achievement. When I call upon Sota no Shirayuki, we act as one entity rather than wielder and tool. That's what's missing, Goku realized, looking at his own staff with new understanding. Nyoibo and I are working together, but not as one. He bowed deeply to Rukia, a gesture of sincere respect she hadn't expected from him. Thank you for showing me. I understand better now. Caught off guard by his genuine gratitude, Rukia allowed her formal demeanor to soften slightly. You are welcome. Perhaps with this insight, tomorrow's mission will prove more educational than dangerous. Or maybe both, Goku replied with an irrepressible grin. The best lessons usually are. As Rukia departed the training ground, she found herself reconsidering her assessment of Son Goku. Beneath the carefree exterior and unconventional methods, perhaps there was more substance than she had initially credited. Tomorrow's mission would certainly prove illuminating, one way or another. Dawn painted Seraite in hues of gold and amber as figures assembled before the massive Senkaimon gate. Yoruichi, dressed in a modified version of her former Onmitsukido uniform, performed last-minute equipment checks while Rukia briefed Goku on protocol for the living world. Remember, humans cannot see you in your spiritual form, but your actions can still affect the physical world, she explained, adjusting the soul pager secured to her wrist. Exercise caution with your spiritual pressure. Excessive release could damage nearby souls or attract unwanted hollow attention. Goku nodded, though his attention seemed divided between her instructions and the imposing gate before them. He wore the standard Shinigami uniform, though he'd insisted on keeping his original blue sash rather than the traditional white one. Nyoibo was secured across his back, its red surface gleaming in the early light. Are you listening, trainee son? Rukia demanded, noting his wandering focus. Yep, no showing off, be careful around humans, follow your lead. He summarized with a cheerful thumbs up. And call me Goku, please. Trainee son. Sounds like I'm in trouble. You will be if you don't take this seriously, Rukia warned, though with less edge than she might have used 6 months ago. Yoruichi approached, her characteristic smirk firmly in place. Everything's set. The mission parameters are straightforward. Investigate unusual hollow activity in Karakura town. Specifically the abandoned industrial district where multiple disappearances have been reported. Karakura again, Rukia questioned. That area has seen increased hollow activity over the past decade. Hence why it's perfect for our troublemaker's first mission, Yoruichi replied. Familiar territory for you, manageable threat level for him, but still unpredictable enough to be a genuine test. The massive doors of the Senkaimon began to creak open, revealing the dimensional tunnel that would transport them to the living world. The precipice world shimmered beyond the threshold, an eerie corridor between dimensions. Stay close, Yoruichi instructed Goku. The Dongai is not a place for sightseeing. What happens if we get separated? Goku asked, peering curiously into the swirling passage. Nothing good, Rukia answered flatly. The Koryu current could trap you for decades, or the cleaner might erase you from existence entirely. Goku's eyes widened with interest rather than fear. This dimension stuff is complicated. In the Rukongai, we just walked from one place to another. The dimensional barriers between Soul Society and the living world are fundamental to the balance of existence. Rukia began, slipping into lecture mode. The Dongai serves as less talking, more moving, Yoruichi interrupted, stepping into the passage. The gate won't stay open forever. The trio entered the Dongai, the massive doors closing behind them with a resonant boom. The precipice world enveloped them in its strange half-light, the walls pulsing with an unsettling organic quality. They moved swiftly through the corridor, Yoruichi leading with Rukia and Goku close behind. Stay in the center of the path, Rukia instructed, noting how Goku's curious gaze kept drifting to the walls. The current at the edges can trap anything it touches. It feels alive, Goku observed, his spiritual sensitivity picking up on the strange nature of their surroundings. But not like a hollow or a Shinigami, more like a force of nature. An apt description, Yoruichi called back. The Dongai exists outside normal space-time. Different rules apply here. Nearing the midpoint of their journey when a distant rumble echoed through the passage. Yoruichi froze, her body suddenly tense. That shouldn't be happening, she muttered, golden eyes narrowing. The cleaner isn't scheduled for today. Quote, what's a cleaner? Goku asked, feeling the tunnel vibrate beneath his feet. An extra-dimensional security system that sweeps the Dongai, Rukia explained quickly, her hand moving to her Zanpakuto. Anything caught in its path is eliminated. The rumbling intensified, and a strange light appeared in the distance behind them, growing brighter by the second. Run, Yoruichi commanded, abandoning caution for speed. Full sprint to the exit. They raced forward, the tremors growing stronger as the cleaner gained on them. The exit, a glowing rectangular light ahead, seemed impossibly distant. This isn't right, Rukia gasped as they ran. The cleaner follows a strict schedule. Someone must have. A violent surge ripped through the tunnel, disrupting the path ahead. The stable floor suddenly split, creating a gaping chasm between their position and the exit. Jump, Yoruichi shouted, launching herself across the widening gap with flash step-enhanced speed. Rukia followed, her smaller frame requiring more spiritual pressure to make the distance. As she landed beside Yoruichi, both turned back to see Goku preparing for his jump, when the floor beneath him abruptly collapsed. Goku, Rukia cried out as he plummeted into the chasm. In a heartbeat, Yoruichi made her decision. Get to the exit, she commanded Rukia, I'll retrieve him. Without waiting for a response, she dove into the abyss after Goku, her form swallowed by the swirling dimensional current below. The cleaner's light grew blindingly bright behind Rukia, leaving her no choice but to sprint for the exit alone. She burst through the dimensional barrier into the living world, the Senkaimon ceiling instantly behind her. For a terrible moment, she feared Yoruichi and Goku had been lost to the Dongai forever. Then, a second dimensional tear opened 50 meters away, depositing two figures unceremoniously onto the roof of an abandoned warehouse. Rukia flash-stepped to their location, relief washing over her as she recognized Yoruichi and Goku, both disheveled but intact. What happened? She demanded as Yoruichi helped Goku to his feet. Someone tampered with the Dongai, Yoruichi replied grimly, dusting off her uniform. That wasn't a scheduled cleaning, and the path disruption was deliberate. Could it have been a malfunction? Rukia suggested, though her tone indicated she didn't believe it herself. The Dongai doesn't malfunction, Yoruichi stated flatly. Someone wanted to separate us or trap us between dimensions. Her golden eyes narrowed. The question is, who knew about this mission besides Central 46 and the captains? Goku, who had been examining their surroundings with interest, suddenly stiffened. We're not alone, he said quietly. His hand moving to Nyoibo secured across his back. Both women instantly shifted to combat readiness, scanning the area. The abandoned industrial district stretched around them, a graveyard of rust. Metal and crumbling concrete bathed in the early morning light of the living world. I don't sense anything, Rukia said after a moment, her hand still on her Zanpakuto. It's hiding, Goku insisted, his expression unusually serious. But it's watching us. I can feel it. Yoruichi closed her eyes briefly, extending her spiritual awareness beyond normal parameters. He's right, she confirmed, opening her eyes. Something is masking its presence, and doing it well enough that I almost missed it. A hollow that can conceal its spiritual pressure. Rukia's violet eyes widened slightly. The chi shouldn't be possible for standard hollow types. Nothing about this mission is standard, Yoruichi muttered. She turned to Goku. Can you locate it? Goku closed his eyes, concentrating. His ritual awareness, unrefined but extraordinarily sensitive, extended outward like ripples in a pond. After a moment, his eyes snapped open, and he pointed toward a cluster of warehouses to the east. There. But it's strange, it doesn't feel like those Manos we fought. This is smaller but more focused. Almost intelligent. We should approach with caution, Rukia advised, drawing her Zanpakuto. If it can mask its presence, it may have other unusual abilities. Agreed, Yoruichi nodded. Standard triangle formation. Goku, stay between us and observe. This is reconnaissance first, combat second. The trio moved across the rooftops with practiced coordination, a testament to their months of training together. As they approached the warehouse Goku had indicated, the sense of being watched intensified. It knows we're coming, Goku whispered, Nioibo now gripped firmly in his hands. They dropped to ground level, taking positions around the warehouse's main entrance. Years of abandonment had left the metal door hanging precariously from rusted hinges. Darkness yawned beyond, concealing whatever lurked inside. Yoruichi signaled silently, and they entered in formation, the Flash Goddess taking point, Rukia covering the rear. And Goku between them, his spiritual pressure carefully dampened as they'd practiced. The interior of the warehouse was a labyrinth of fallen support beams, collapsed shelving, and mysterious shapes shrouded in dust-covered tarps. Thin shafts of light penetrated through holes in the roof, creating islands of visibility in the gloom. "I don't like this," Rukia murmured, her senses straining for any sign of the hollow. "Why would it lure us here?" "Because it's hunting us," Yoruichi replied softly, her experienced eyes scanning the shadows. "And this is its territory." A metallic scraping sound echoed from somewhere deep in the warehouse, followed by unnatural silence. Even the ambient noises of the living world seemed muted inside these walls. "Left balcony," Goku whispered suddenly, pointing to a rusted walkway 20 meters above. His warning came a moment too late. A dark shape launched itself from the shadows, moving with impossible speed directly toward Rukia. She barely had time to raise her blade before the attack struck. The hollow was unlike any they had encountered before. Roughly humanoid but with elongated limbs and a mask that resembled a shattered porcelain doll's face, it moved with a fluid grace that belied its monstrous nature. Most disturbing was the Zanpakuto clutched in its right hand, a broken, corrupted blade that leaked black energy. "It has a Zanpakuto," Rukia gasped, parrying its initial strike with difficulty. The force of the blow sent her sliding backward. "Impossible," Yoruichi stated, Flash stepping to Rukia's side. "Hollows don't wield Zanpakuto." The creature tilted its fractured mask, studying them with unnerving intelligence. When it spoke, its voice grated like broken glass being ground underfoot. "Nothing is impossible anymore," it rasped. "The boundaries are breaking down. The old rules no longer apply." Yoruichi moved with blinding speed, appearing behind the hollow with her leg already sweeping toward its head. But the creature anticipated her attack, twisting unnaturally to block with its blade. "Flash Goddess," it hissed, sounding almost pleased. "They said you might come. A worthy test for what I've become." "Who sent you?" Yoruichi demanded, exchanging a rapid series of blows with the creature, neither gaining advantage. The hollow laughed, a sound like tearing metal. "Sent. No one sends me anywhere. I volunteered to hunt in this territory when I sensed the gate opening." Its broken mask turned slightly toward Goku, who stood ready with Nioibo. "Especially when I felt him coming through." "Me?" Goku questioned, grip tightening on his staff. "What do you want with me?" "To taste your power," the hollow replied simply. "To see if the rumors are true." It moved again, this time targeting Goku directly. Its speed was remarkable for a hollow, nearly matching Yoruichi's flash step. Goku raised Nioibo just in time to block the corrupted Zanpakuto, the collision sending sparks of conflicting spiritual energy across the warehouse. "Interesting," the hollow murmured, pressing its attack. "Your weapon resists corruption, most unusual for one so unrefined." Goku pushed back, his raw strength forcing the hollow to retreat a step. "Nioibo doesn't like you," he stated, his usual cheerfulness replaced by focused intensity. "And neither do I." The hollow's mask seemed to smile, though no facial features moved. "Good. Hatred makes the spirit more potent when consumed." "I didn't say I hated you," Goku corrected, spinning his staff into a defensive position. "I just said I don't like you." "There's a difference." Before the hollow could respond, a blast of white energy struck it from the side, encasing its left arm in ice. Rukia stood with Sota no Shirayuki extended, her stance perfect despite the surprise attack they'd endured. "First dance. Some no mai, Tsukishiro," she intoned, completing the technique. The hollow regarded its rosin limb with what almost seemed like curiosity rather than concern. Then, with a casual flex, it shattered the ice, fragments tinkling against the concrete floor. "The Ice Princess of the Kuchiki clan," it observed. "Your reputation precedes you as well. But your Zanpakuto's temperature would need to be far lower to affect my kind." "Your kind?" Yoruichi questioned, circling to flank the creature. "And what exactly are you?" No ordinary hollow carries a Zanpakuto or speaks of Shinigami with such familiarity. The hollow tilted its head again, that unsettling not quite smile visible in its body language if not on its mask. I am the future, the evolution that awaits when the barriers between hollow and Shinigami collapse completely. It raised its corrupted blade. But enough talk. I came to feed, not philosophize. It attacked again, but this time split its assault in 3 directions simultaneously, its blade sweeping toward Yoruichi, a Sero blast erupting from its palm toward Rukia. And its tail, previously hidden, whipping toward Goku's legs. Yoruichi evaded with practiced ease, but Rukia was forced to erect a Kido shield against the Sero, the force of the blast pushing her backward. Goku, caught by surprise at the hidden appendage, took the hit directly, the hollow's tail wrapping around his ankle and yanking him off his feet. Goku! Rukia shouted as the hollow dragged him across the warehouse floor, his back scraping against broken concrete and rusted metal. Yoruichi launched a counterattack, her Hakuta strikes targeting the hollow's mask with precision born from centuries of combat experience. The creature released Goku to defend itself, parrying Yoruichi's attacks with increasing difficulty. You're strong, the hollow acknowledged, its movements becoming more desperate as Yoruichi pressed her advantage. But are you strong enough to protect both your students? Without warning, it disengaged from Yoruichi and fired twin Seros, one toward the still covering Goku and another at the warehouse ceiling directly above Rukia. The roof collapsed in a shower of concrete and steel, burying the petite Shinigami beneath tons of debris. Rukia! Goku shouted, rolling to avoid the Sero aimed at him. He sprinted toward the rubble pile, but the hollow intercepted him, its blade slicing toward his unprotected back. Focus on your own survival, boy, it taunted. Time seemed to slow as Goku realized he couldn't dodge in time. In that crystallized moment of danger, something within him shifted, a connection that had been straining to form for months. Fin. Ally clicking into place with perfect clarity. Extend. Nyoibo, he commanded, the words rising unbidden from the depths of his soul. His Zanpakuto responded instantly, the staff elongating with impossible speed. One end shot backward to parry the hollow's strike while the other extended forward, punching through the rubble pile covering Rukia. Goku's spiritual pressure flared brilliantly, gold, and energy coursing along the length of the now transformed weapon. The hollow recoiled from the sudden release of power. What is this? A Shikai release without the proper sequence. Goku didn't answer. His attention was focused entirely on Rukia as he carefully lifted debris with his extended Zanpakuto, creating an opening in the rubble. Yoruichi flash stepped to the location, quickly extracting a dust-covered but largely unharmed Rukia from the collapsed section. Your concern for others is a weakness, the hollow declared, circling warily as it assessed Goku's partially released Zanpakuto. One I will exploit. You're wrong, Goku replied, his voice calmer and more focused than Rukia had ever heard it. Caring about others isn't what makes us weak. He turned to face the hollow fully. Nyoibo contracting to its normal length but still humming with activated power. It's what makes us strong. The hollow charged, its corrupted blade trailing shadows. Goku met the attack head-on. Nyoibo intercepting the Zanpakuto with a clash of spiritual pressure that shook the remaining structure of the warehouse. Unlike their previous exchange, this time Goku clearly had the upper hand, his movements flowing with newfound harmony between wielder and weapon. Impossible, the hollow hissed as it was driven back step by step. Your Shikai wasn't complete yesterday. Our intelligence was clear on this point. Yesterday's limitations don't define today's possibilities, Goku replied, pressing his advantage. With each strike, Nyoibo glowed brighter, the golden patterns along its length pulsing like heartbeats. Rukia, now recovered, moved to flank the hollow. Dance, Sota no Shirayuki, she commanded, her Zanpakuto transforming into its released state. Second dance. Tsugi no Mai, Hakuren. A massive wave of ice erupted from her blade, hurtling toward the hollow from the side. Simultaneously, Yoruichi appeared above the creature, her leg wreathed in crackling Kido energy as she descended for a devastating axe kick. Caught in the three-pronged attack, the hollow made a desperate choice. It stabbed its corrupted Zanpakuto into the ground, creating a shock wave of black energy that momentarily disrupted all 3 assaults. In the confusion, it leapt toward a shadowed corner of the warehouse. It's escaping. Rukia called out, already moving in pursuit. No, Yoruichi countered, her experienced eyes tracking the hollow's true intention. It's changing tactics. Indeed, instead of fleeing, the hollow plunged its hand into the shadows as if reaching through a portal. When it withdrew its arm, it clutched a struggling human soul, a plus that had been hiding in the warehouse, invisible to all but the most sensitive spiritual awareness. One step closer, the hollow warned, holding its blade to the terrified spirit's throat, and this soul joins me permanently. Goku froze, Nioibo still glowing with activated power. Let them go, he demanded, his usual carefree demeanor completely absent. Your fight is with us. And now I have leverage, the hollow replied coldly. Here's my proposal. The boy comes with me, alone, and this pitiful soul goes free. Refuse, and I devour it here and now. Unacceptable, Rukia stated flatly, Sota no Shirayuki still poised to strike. We don't negotiate with hollows. Even when innocent souls hang in the balance, Ice Princess. The hollow's mask tilted mockingly. How very Kuchiki of you. Yoruichi's eyes narrowed as she assessed their options. A direct attack would endanger the plus, but allowing Goku to go with the hollow was equally unthinkable. Before she could formulate a strategy, however, Goku made his decision. I'll go, he said firmly, lowering Nioibo to his side. But first, release the soul. Goku. No, Rukia protested. This violates every protocol. I'm not very good with protocols, Goku interrupted, his eyes never leaving the hollow. But I know what's right. One soul for another seems fair. The hollow studied him for a moment, its broken mask unreadable. How noble, it finally remarked. But I've reconsidered. I think I'll take both of you. It made its move with startling speed, dragging both the plus and itself into the shadow portal it had partially opened. Goku reacted instantly, diving forward with Nioibo extended. The staff pierced the closing shadow, its end disappearing into the dimensional tier. Goku, Yoruichi shouted, Flash stepping toward him, but too late. The portal collapsed, taking both Goku and the hollow with it, leaving only empty shadows against the warehouse wall. Rukia stared at the spot where they had vanished, her violet eyes wide with shock. What just happened? Where did they go? Yoruichi knelt, examining the shadow carefully. Her expression was grim as she traced the fading spiritual residue. This isn't normal hollow transportation. This is something else, a form of dimensional manipulation I've only seen in the Dongai. Cool. It be related to the tampering we experienced during our crossing? Rukia asked, her mind racing to connect the disparate pieces. Almost certainly, Yoruichi confirmed, rising to her feet. The M.I. Seijin was compromised from the beginning. We were meant to encounter this specific hollow. But why? What would anyone gain by? Rukia's question was cut short as the shadow rippled again, bulging outward before splitting open. Goku tumbled through, dragging the plus spirit with one hand while the other still clutched Nioibo. He hit the ground hard, rolling to absorb the impact before springing back to his feet. Zanpakuto at the ready. It's coming back through, he warned, pushing the trembling spirit toward Rukia. Get them to safety. The shadow portal expanded, and the hollow emerged, but changed. Its mask had cracked further, revealing a partially humanoid face beneath. The corrupted Zanpakuto now seemed fused to its arm, the boundary between blade and flesh indistinct. It snarled at Goku. Black ichor dripping from its mask. You damaged the gateway. Do you have any idea what you've done? Goku stood his ground, Nioibo pulsing with golden light. Stopped you from taking an innocent soul. That's enough for me. The hollow's laugh held no humor, only a cold, calculating rage. You think so small, Shinigami. The gateway wasn't just for travel, it was a connection to our master. And now he knows exactly where you are and what you can do. Who is your master? Yoruichi demanded, moving to flank the creature. Who sent you? Instead of answering, the hollow began to convulse, its body twisting unnaturally as black energy erupted from the cracks in its mask. It doesn't matter now, it gasped between spasms. The sample is collected. The mission is complete. What sample? Rukia questioned, having performed a quick conso on the plus spirit to send it safely to Soul Society. What are you talking about? The hollow's only response was a final, chilling laugh as its body began to dissolve. Particles of spiritual energy floating upward before vanishing entirely. Its mask was the last to disintegrate, the broken porcelain face seeming to smile even as it faded to nothing. An uneasy silence fell over the warehouse as the three Shinigami processed what had just transpired. I've never seen a hollow self-destruct like that, Rukia finally said, her Zanpakuto returning to its sealed state. And its abilities, the shadow transportation, the corrupted Zanpakuto, none of this matches known hollow classifications. Because it wasn't just a hollow, Yoruichi stated grimly. It was something new, a hybrid of some kind. She turned to Goku, her golden eyes sharp with concern. What happened when you followed it through the portal? Goku leaned on Nyoibo, which had returned to its normal, non-released state. For the first time since they'd met him, he looked genuinely shaken. It was like the Dongai, but wrong. Twisted. There were others there, similar to our opponent but in different stages of transformation. They were gathered around someone in a white coat. He was doing experiments on hollows and Shinigami souls, fusing them together. Rukia's face paled. That's forbidden knowledge, the darkest kind of spiritual manipulation. Worse than forbidden, Yoruichi agreed, her expression hardening. It's exactly the kind of R.E. search that got Urahara and Tessai exiled a century ago. Someone is continuing those experiments. The hollow said it collected a sample, Rukia recalled, her analytical mind working through the implications. What could it have meant? Yoruichi's eyes narrowed as she examined Goku more carefully. Your spiritual pressure is slightly diminished. Did the hollow wound you in the shadow realm? Goku checked himself, finding a small cut on his arm that he hadn't noticed in the heat of battle. Just this scratch. It caught me with the tip of its blade when I was grabbing the plus spirit. That's it, Yoruichi realized, her voice tight with concern. It wasn't sent to kill you, it was sent to collect a sample of your spiritual energy. That's why it specifically targeted you in the Dongai and lured us to this location. But why me? Goku asked, genuine confusion in his eyes. I'm just a trainee. Rukia and Yoruichi exchanged meaningful glances. Because you're not just anything, Goku, Rukia stated, her formal reserve giving way to genuine concern. Your spiritual composition is unlike anything in Soul Society's records. If someone is experimenting with hybrid spiritual entities, your energy would be invaluable to their research. Which means our enemy now has exactly what they wanted, Yoruichi concluded grimly. A sample of your unique spiritual signature. Goku looked down at Nyoibo, still humming faintly with residual energy from its partial release. Does this mean the mission failed? On the contrary, Yoruichi replied, her lips curving into a determined smile that held no warmth. Now we know far more than we did this morning. Someone is creating hollow Shinigami hybrids. They've infiltrated Soul Society deeply enough to tamper with the Dongai, and they specifically interested in your spiritual energy. That sounds like bad news to me, Goku observed. Knowledge of your enemy is never bad news, Yoruichi countered. Besides, you achieved partial Shikai under pressure. I'd call that a significant personal victory. Goku brightened slightly at the reminder. Yeah, Nyoibo finally talked to me clearly when Rukia was in danger. It was like something clicked into place. Rukia's expression softened momentarily. You risked yourself to save me in that plus. Perhaps there's more Shinigami in you than I initially credited. We should return to Soul Society immediately. Yoruichi decided. The Captain Commander needs to know about these developments. As they prepared to open a return Senkaimon, Rukia found herself watching Goku with new eyes. His reckless dive into the shadow portal to save a stranger, his instinctive activation of Shikai to protect her, these weren't the actions of someone merely seeking strength for its own sake. Perhaps Yukitake had been right to insist on placing him in the 13th Division after all. Beneath the unorthodox exterior beat the heart of a true protector. And in these uncertain times, with known enemies creating abominations that defied the natural order, Soul Society would need every protector it could find. The sterile laboratory deep beneath the 12th Division headquarters hummed with activity as Bulma Tenshin carefully adjusted the settings on her latest invention. Surrounded by screens displaying complex spiritual wavelength patterns, she barely noticed the door sliding open behind her. Working late again, Tenshin. Captain Kuritsuchi's distinctive voice broke her concentration. Your dedication would be admirable if I didn't suspect ulterior motives. Bulma straightened, turning to face her captain with a carefully neutral expression. Just analyzing the data from today's field mission, Captain. The readings from Karakura town show some fascinating anomalies. Kuretsuchi's painted face twisted into what passed for a smile. Ah yes, the troublesome trio's excursion to the living world. I understand there was an incident. The casual way he referenced He mission, which had only concluded hours ago and hadn't yet been officially reported, confirmed Bulma's suspicions about information leaks within the division. Word travels fast, she observed neutrally. Information is the currency of progress, Kuretsuchi replied, gliding closer to examine her screens. His gold-capped teeth glinted in the blue light. And speaking of progress, what have you discovered about our special subject spiritual signature? Bulma hesitated, weighing her options carefully. Complete honesty with Kuretsuchi was rarely the wisest course, but outright deception would be detected. Son Goku achieved partial Shikai release during combat with an unusual hollow-type entity. The spiritual harmonics during activation showed remarkable synchronization patterns unlike standard Zanpakuto resonance. Yes, Kuretsuchi waved impatiently. The basics are in the preliminary report. I'm more interested in your analysis of the hollow entity they encountered. So he already had access to the mission data. Bulma kept her expression neutral as she pulled up a different set of readings. The spiritual signature was unlike any catalogued hollow type. It displayed characteristics of both hollow and Shinigami energy, with evidence of artificial fusion rather than natural evolution like the visored. Kuretsuchi studied the readings, his unnerving eyes narrowing slightly. Someone is conducting spiritual fusion experiments outside my division. How irritating. The techniques appear similar to your predecessor's work, Bulma noted carefully. The boundary violation principles especially. Urahara was a fool who never understood the true potential of his discoveries, Kuretsuchi snapped, a rare display of emotion. Whoever is continuing his research clearly lacks his ethical hesitations, which makes them both more interesting and more dangerous. Bulma took a calculated risk. Captain, given the similarity to previous research, might it be prudent to consult with former Captain Urahara? His insights could. Absolutely not. Kuretsuchi's spiritual pressure flared briefly, rattling the nearby equipment. That man remains exiled for good reason. We will solve this mystery without his interference. Of course, Captain, Bulma agreed smoothly, though her mind was already forming contingency plans. I simply thought his experience might expedite our investigation. Kuretsuchi's mood shifted again, his scientific curiosity overtaking his personal animosity. Your preliminary analysis of the Sun Boy's spiritual sample, what were your conclusions? This was dangerous territory. Bulma knew that Yoruichi had deliberately withheld the sample taken by the Hollow, concerned about exactly this kind of interest from the 12th Division captain. Quote, "We weren't able to secure a pure sample during the mission," she replied carefully. The hollow entity disintegrated before proper collection protocols could be implemented. How inconvenient, Kuretsuchi remarked, his tone suggesting he didn't entirely believe her. Perhaps we should arrange a more controlled collection environment. The boy's unique spiritual composition could revolutionize our understanding of soul integration. The casual way he discussed experimenting on Goku sent a chill down Bulma's spine, though she maintained her professional demeanor. Captain Yukitake and the Flash Goddess are quite protective of their charge. Any formal request would likely face significant resistance. Politics, Kuretsuchi spat the word like a curse. Always interfering with scientific progress. He turned away from the screens. Moving toward the door. Continue your analysis, tension. I expect a complete report on my desk by tomorrow evening, including any data you might have neglected to mention tonight. As the door slid shut behind him, Bulma released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. She quickly secured her workstation, activating the privacy protocols she'd personally designed to prevent remote monitoring, one of many precautions she'd implemented since beginning her study of Goku's unique spiritual energy. From a hidden compartment beneath her workbench, he retrieved a small vial containing a glowing golden substance, a sample of Goku's spiritual energy she had collected during training, weeks before the current mission. Unlike standard Ryutsu samples that dissipated within hours, Goku's had remained stable, another anomaly that defied conventional spiritual science. What are you? She whispered, holding the vial up to the light. And why are so many people willing to break the rules to acquire you? The sample pulsed faintly, as if responding to her question. Bulma carefully returned it to its hiding place, her mind racing. If someone outside Soul Society was creating hollow Shinigami hybrids and specifically targeting Goku's energy, and if Kuritsuchi's interest went beyond scientific curiosity as she suspected, then the young Shinigami in training was caught between multiple dangerous forces. And somehow, she'd found herself caught right alongside him. Securing her laboratory, Bulma made a decision. Tomorrow, she would arrange a private meeting with Yoruichi. Politics and division loyalties aside, the situation had become too dangerous for half-truths and divided information. If they were to protect Goku, and by extension, all society itself, from whatever forces were aligning against them, they would need to work together. As she left the 12th Division compound, the first light of dawn was breaking over Seraite. A new day, bringing with it new dangers and, perhaps, new allies in unexpected places. Chapter 2 and Chapter 3, The Art of Spirit. No, no, no. Chi-Chi Shiba's voice cut through the morning air like a blade. The incantation is, Ye Lord. Not, the Lord. The entire spiritual matrix collapses with improper phrasing. She stood rigidly in the center of the 13th Division's formal Kido training ground. Her traditional Shinigami uniform augmented with the distinctive crimson and gold trim that marked her as a member of the prestigious Shiba clan. Unlike most Shinigami who wore their hair loose or in simple styles, Chi-Chi's gleaming black hair was gathered into a tight bun secured with ornate kanzashi, golden hairpins from which small bells hung, chiming softly with her every movement. Before her, Goku scratched his head in confusion, spiritual energy dissipating harmlessly around his outstretched palm. I don't understand why the words matter so much. Can't I just push the energy out, like I did with that golden beam attack? Chi-Chi's dark eyes narrowed dangerously. That undisciplined spiritual discharge was not Kido. True Kido is the ancient art of demon magic, refined through millennia of Shinigami tradition. Every syllable, every gesture carries specific spiritual resonance that shapes the raw energy into precise effects. From her position at the edge of the training ground, Rukia Kuchiki suppressed a smile. For 3 days, she had watched the renowned Kido prodigy attempt to teach Goku the fundamentals of spiritual magic, with predictably frustrating results. The clash of teaching styles couldn't have been more dramatic. Chi-Chi's rigid adherence to traditional forms versus Goku's intuitive but undisciplined approach. Let me demonstrate again, Chi-Chi declared. Stepping forward with perfect posture, she extended her right arm, index and middle fingers pointed outward while her left hand grasped her right wrist for stability. Observe both the physical form and spiritual alignment. Her voice took on a rhythmic, almost musical quality as she began the incantation, Ye Lord. Mask of blood and flesh, all creation, flutter of wings, ye who bears the name of man. Inferno and pandemonium, the sea barrier surges, march on to the south. As she spoke, visible energy gathered around her extended fingers, condensing into a pulsing red sphere. With the final syllable, she released the energy with controlled precision. Hado number 31, Shakaho. The crimson fireball shot across the training ground, striking a target dummy 50 meters away with devastating accuracy. The dummy erupted in flames. Yet those flames remained perfectly contained, not spreading even a centimeter beyond their intended target. That, Chi-Chi stated with evident pride, is the difference between true Kido and undisciplined spiritual flailing. Goku's eyes widened with genuine appreciation. That was amazing. The way you controlled exactly where the energy went, even after it left your hand. Chi-Chi's severe expression softened slightly at his honest admiration. Kido is not merely about destruction, it is about precision. A master can heal the most grievous wounds or inflict the most specific damage with equal skill. She gestured for him to try again. Now, remember the stance and incantation exactly as I demonstrated. Goku positioned himself, mimicking Kai Ch's formal stance with surprising accuracy for someone typically so casual in his movements. He extended his arm, concentrating on the feeling of spiritual energy flowing through his body. Ye Lord, mask of blood and flesh, all creation. Flutter of wings, ye who bears the name of man. His spiritual pressure began to build visibly, golden energy swirling around his extended fingers in quantities that made both Chi-Chi and Rukia exchange concerned glances. Inferno and Pandemonium, the sea barrier surges, march on to the south. Hado number 31, Shakuho. The energy spheroid that formed was 3T. Ms larger than Chi-Chi's demonstration and pulsed with unstable power. When Goku released it, the Kido blast rocketed forward with excessive force, overshooting the target completely and striking the division's eastern wall. The resulting explosion shook the entire training ground, sending debris raining down and leaving a smoking crater in the reinforced stone. In the sudden silence that followed, Goku turned to Chi-Chi with an apologetic smile. Too much power. Chi-Chi's face had gone dangerously still, her spiritual pressure rising as she visibly fought to maintain her composure. The small bells in her hair trembled, not from movement but from the restrained energy radiating from her body. 3 days, she finally said, her voice deceptively quiet. 3 days I have attempted to teach you the most basic principles of spiritual control. 3 days you have destroyed training equipment, damaged division property, and made a mockery of techniques that take most Shinigami years to master. She stepped closer, her index finger jabbing into Goku's chest. You possess extraordinary power but the discipline of an untrained child. How do you expect to become a proper Shinigami without mastering the fundamental arts? Rather than being intimidated, Goku considered her question seriously. I don't think I'm meant to be a proper Shinigami, he admitted, surprising both women with his self-awareness. Everything I try to do the traditional way feels wrong somehow. Like wearing clothes that don't fit. Chi-Chi opened her mouth to deliver another reprimand when a smooth voice interrupted from the entrance to the training ground. Perhaps that's because he isn't a traditional soul to begin with, Yoruichi Shihoin remarked, appearing beside them with her characteristic silent movement. Trying to force him into standard Shinigami techniques is like trying to make a tiger behave like a house cat. You might get superficial compliance, but you're fighting against nature. Chi-Chi straightened, her formal demeanor becoming even more pronounced in Yoruichi's casual presence. Lady Shihoin, she acknowledged with a stiff bow. The Kido Corps assigned me to this task at Captain Yukitaki's request. Traditional training methods have proven effective for centuries. For traditional Shinigami souls, Yoruichi countered, circling Goku with an appraising eye. Uta's our troublemaker demonstrated in Karakura town last week. His most effective techniques emerge when he abandons tradition entirely. Rukia stepped forward, adding her perspective to the discussion. His performance against the hybrid hollow showed both remarkable strength and significant limitations. Without proper Kido control, his options in combat remain restricted. I'm not suggesting we abandon training entirely, Yoruichi clarified, just that we stop trying to force square pegs into round holes. She turned to Chi-Chi with a challenging smile. Unless the renowned Shiba Kido X Pertise isn't flexible enough to adapt to unusual circumstances. The subtle provocation hit its mark. Chi-Chi's spine stiffened, and the bells in her hair chimed as she raised her chin proudly. The Shiba clan has developed specialized techniques for every conceivable spiritual variation for 10 generations. If anyone can devise an appropriate training method, it would be us. Excellent, Yoruichi purred, clearly having maneuvered Chi-Chi exactly where she wanted. Then you won't object to continuing Goku's training at a more suitable location. Chi-Chi's eyes narrowed suspiciously. What location did you have in mind? The Shihoin clan's secret training grounds, Yoruichi replied casually, as if suggesting a stroll through the park rather than access to one of Soul Society's most closely guarded facilities. The revelation caused both Chi-Chi and Rukia to stare in astonishment. The noble clans of Soul Society jealously guarded their ancestral training grounds, repositories of secret techniques and spiritual knowledge accumulated over millennia. For Yoruichi to offer access to a non-clan member, especially one with Goku's uncertain status, was unprecedented. But the clan elders, Chi-Chi began, familiar enough with noble politics to understand the implications, will not be consulted, Yoruichi finished firmly. As the legitimate heir to the Shihoin clan, those grounds remain under my authority, regardless of my extended absence. Is that legal? Goku asked, looking between the women curiously. A mischievous smile played across Yoruichi's lips. Let's Call it a creative interpretation of clan law. Besides, after your performance in Karakura Town, certain parties within Soul Society are taking too keen an interest in your abilities. Training Sumwi. Off the official records seems prudent. Rukia immediately understood the subtext. You're concerned about the 12th Division's involvement. Among others, Yoruichi confirmed. The hybrid hollow that specifically targeted Goku raises questions about information security within the Gote 13. Until we know who's behind those experiments, discretion seems wise. Chi-Chi considered the proposal, her practical nature weighing the benefits against the protocol violations. The Shiba clan has traditionally maintained good relations with the Shihoin, she acknowledged cautiously. And special ed training facilities would minimize collateral damage. She glanced meaningfully at the smoking crater in the division wall. So we're going to your family's secret training place? Goku asked Yoruichi, excitement evident in his voice. Will there be strong opponents there? New techniques to learn. The Shihoin grounds contain training tools and environments that exist nowhere else in Soul Society, Yoruichi replied. Including specialized equipment for Keto development that might be more compatible with your unique spiritual pressure. That caught Chi-Chi's interest despite her reservations. The Tenrai mirrors. I've only read about them in the Keto Core archives. Among other things, Yoruichi confirmed. If traditional methods aren't working, perhaps ancient ones will prove more effective. Decision made. Chi-Chi nodded once, the bells in her hair chiming with finality. Very well. For the sake of proper spiritual development, I will continue instruction at the alternate location. She fixed Goku with a stern look. But do not mistake a change in venue for a relaxation of standards. If anything, my expectations will be higher. Goku's response was a bright, genuine smile that momentarily disrupted Chi-Chi's severe demeanor. Thanks for not giving up on me. I promise to try harder, even if I can't do things the normal way. Something flickered in Chi-Chi's eyes, a brief softening before her professional mask reasserted itself. See that you do. We depart in 1 hour. I suggest you prepare appropriate training attire, as Shiba Keto exercises typically result in significant spiritual discharge. As Chi-Chi marched away to make her own preparations, Rukia turned to Yoruichi with concern evident in her violet eyes. This development wasn't in the training schedule approved by Captain Yukitaki. I've already spoken with your captain, Yoruichi assured her. He agrees that given recent events, unconventional measures are warranted. And my role? Rukia inquired, uncertain of her place in this new arrangement. Unchanged, Yoruichi replied. Your Zanpakuto expertise and experience from the Karakura incident make you valuable to Goku's development. Our golden eyes held Rukia's gaze meaningfully. Besides, I think our troublemaker benefits from having someone who upholds traditional Shinigami values in his training circle. Balance in all things, yes. Rukia recognized the wisdom in maintaining diverse perspectives. I'll inform my division of the schedule adjustment. As she departed, Goku turned to Yoruichi with uncharacteristic seriousness. You're worried about something, aren't you? That's the real reason for changing training locations. Yoruichi regarded him with surprise. 6 months ago, he might not have noticed such subtleties. Your perceptiveness is improving, she acknowledged. Yes, I'm concerned. The hybrid hollow you encountered wasn't a random anomaly. Someone is creating them deliberately, and they have a specific interest in you. Because of my weird spirit energy. Goku guessed. Precisely. And until we understand who and why, keeping your abilities and development somewhat off the record seems prudent. Goku nodded, his normally carefree expression replaced by determination. I need to get stronger quickly, don't I? Not just for me, but to protect others when these hybrid things attack again. They will attack again, Yoruichi confirmed grimly. What happened in Karakura Town was just a test, a sampling mission. Whoever is behind this is planning something larger. Goku gripped Nyoibo, which hung across his back. Then let's not waste time. I'm ready to train your way, even if it's harder. Yoruichi's lips curved into a smile that was both proud and predatory. Oh, troublemaker, you have no idea how hard it's going to be. The journey to the Shihoin clan's secret training grounds required traversing areas of Soul Society few outsiders ever witnessed. Beyond the organized streets of Seraite, past the sprawling districts of Rukongai, lay territories controlled exclusively by the four great noble families. The Shihoin lands were characterized by dense bamboo forests and mist-shrouded mountains that seemed to defy normal geography. The spiritual density here feels different, Rukia observed as they followed a nearly invisible path through towering bamboo stalks. Heavier but more refined. The Shihoin clan has maintained these spiritual conditions for millennia, Chi-Chi explained, her extensive noble education evident in her knowledgeable commentary. The Concenter. Aided Reishi creates ideal conditions for developing Ho-Ho techniques, particularly flash step variations. Goku, walking slightly ahead with Yoruichi, marveled at the environment. It's like the air itself is alive here. I can almost taste the spiritual energy. The bamboo absorbs and purifies spiritual pressure, Yoruichi explained, trailing her fingers along the smooth green stalks as they passed. Any negative or chaotic energy is filtered out, leaving only the most refined reishi in the atmosphere. Chi-Chi's eyes narrowed slightly. Such information is typically clan-restricted, Lady Shihoin. Yoruichi's response was a careless shrug. Old habits from old eras. The time for hoarding knowledge behind clan walls is passing, whether the elders recognize it or not. The path eventual, Li opened into a small clearing where an ancient stone gateway stood, seemingly disconnected from any wall or structure. Weathered by centuries of existence, the torii arch was covered in symbols that predated modern spiritual writing. Glowing faintly with dormant power. The shadowed gate, Chi-Chi whispered with appropriate reverence. I've read accounts but never expected to see it personally. Yoruichi approached the gateway, pressing her palm against the central keystone. Blood of the Shihoin, guardian of shadows, keeper of secrets. I claim ancestral rite of passage. The symbols flared to life. Crimson light racing along ancient channels carved into the stone. The empty space within the arch rippled like disturbed water, the ordinary forest view beyond replaced by a swirling vortex of indigo energy. Ladies first, Yoruichi gestured with mock formality. Chi-Chi straightened her already perfect posture and stepped through without hesitation, disappearing into the vortex. Rukia followed with only a moment's pause, her natural dignity preventing any display of uncertainty. What exactly is on the other side? Goku asked, peering curiously at the swirling energy. Something that technically doesn't exist in the same dimension as Soul Society proper, Yoruichi explained. The Shihoin clan discovered a natural pocket dimension centuries ago and adapted it for our purposes. The spiritual laws operate slightly differently there, which might be exactly what you need. Goku stepped through the gateway without further questions, the sensation similar yet distinct from passing through a senkaimon. Where the path to the living world felt structured and defined, this transition seemed fluid, as if reality itself became momentarily negotiable. He emerged into a vast cavern that defied conventional understanding of size and space. The ceiling arched hundreds of meters overhead, illuminated by floating orbs of keto light that cast a golden glow across the entire chamber. The floor was a mosaic of different training surfaces, sections of polished wood, areas of fine sand, regions of bare stone, and even pools of still water that reflected the light above. Most impressive were the walls, lined with mirrored surfaces that seemed to capture and amplify spiritual energy. As Goku watched, his own reflection rippled and shifted, displaying not his physical form but a visualization of his spiritual pressure, a swirling golden aura surrounding a humanoid shape with features that sometimes appeared more simian than human. The Tenrai mirrors, Chi-Chi explained, noticing his fascination. They reflect spiritual reality rather than physical appearance. Ancient tools for understanding one's true nature. They're beautiful, Goku remarked, watching as his spirit UAL reflection performed movements mirroring his own, though sometimes with slight variations, as if showing not what he was doing, but what he could be doing if his technique were perfected. And useful, Yoruichi added. Traditional Kido training focuses on precise incantations and gestures because most Shinigami need that structure to properly form spiritual energy. But the mirrors can help us understand how your energy naturally wants to flow, allowing us to develop techniques that work with your innate patterns rather than against them. Chi-Chi approached one of the mirrors, studying Goku's reflection with professional interest. The spiritual currents are unlike anything in the standard classifications. See how the energy gathers at the core before extending outward. Most Shinigami project from the extremities inward. Is that good or bad? Goku asked. Neither. Just different, Chi-Chi replied, her initial rigidity gradually giving way to scholarly fascination. It explains why traditional Kido incantations produce unstable results for you. They're designed to channel energy along pathways that don't align with your natural flow. Rukia, who had been quietly observing, added her own insight. It's similar to how your Zanpakuto manifested as a staff rather than a sword. Your soul expresses itself through different forms than most Shinigami. Which brings us to today's first exercise, Yoruichi announced, guiding them to a circular area at the cavern's center. The floor here was inscribed with intricate patterns that began to glow softly as they stepped within the boundary. Instead of forcing standard Kido through incompatible channels, we're going to discover your natural spiritual language. Chi-Chi's expression showed reluctant approval of this approach. The resonance circle, an elegant solution, though rarely used in modern training. What do I need to do? Goku asked, taking position at the circle's center as Yoruichi indicated. Simply exist, Yoruichi instructed with uncharacteristic seriousness. Let your spiritual pressure flow naturally, without attempting to direct or control it. The circle will respond to your energy's authentic nature. As the three women stepped back beyond the circle's boundary, Goku closed his eyes and breathed deeply. For months, his training had focused on controlling and containing his spiritual pressure. Now, he was being asked to release it, to let it express itself without interference. The release began slowly, tendrils of golden energy seeping from his body like morning mist rising from a lake. As his conscious control relaxed further, the energy flow increased, swirling around him in patterns that seemed random at first but gradually revealed underlying structure. Unlike the chaotic explosions that had characterized his early training, this natural expression of his spiritual pressure moved with purpose, expanding and contracting in rhythmic pulses that resembled breathing. The inscriptions on the floor responded, glowing brighter and changing color to match his energy's resonance. Fascinating, Chi-Chi murmured, her analytical mind cataloging the patterns. The circular flow, the layered densities, the harmonic oscillations, it resembles ancient martial Kido forms that predate standardized Shinigami techniques. More importantly, Yoruichi noted, it's stable. No erratic discharges, no structural damage to the surrounding area. Rukia's violet eyes narrowed in concentration. It's as if his energy naturally knows what to do when not forced into conventional forms. Within the circle, Goku had entered a meditative state unlike any he'd experienced before. With his spiritual pressure flowing freely according to its own nature, he became aware of a presence that had always been with him but never so clearly defined, the spirit of Nyoibo, his Zanpakuto. Not speaking with words, but communicating through impressions and feelings, the spirit showed Goku visions of mountains touching clouds. Of battles fought with joy rather than hatred, of power that transformed rather than destroyed. Most prominently, it showed him movements, flowing forms that looked like martial arts but channeled spiritual energy in ways no standard Shinigami technique could match. Without conscious decision, Goku began to move within the circle, his body following the patterns revealed by his Zanpakuto spirit. Each gesture channeled his spiritual pressure with increasing precision, creating effects that resembled Kido spells but required no incantations. A sweeping circular movement of his arm generated a barrier of golden energy. A two-fingered strike projected a focused beam of spiritual pressure that could pierce or paralyze depending on its application. A spinning kick created a rotating disc of energy that could be thrown like a projectile or used as a shield. Chi-Chi watched with professional fascination, overwhelmed the indignation she might have felt at this unorthodox approach to spiritual arts. He's creating Kido equivalent effects without traditional form or incantation, she observed, unable to hide her amazement. Each movement is a complete spiritual circuit, no wasted energy, no instability. He's not creating Kido, Yoruichi corrected gently. He's speaking his soul's native language. We've been trying to teach him Japanese when his spirit naturally speaks Chinese. The demonstration continued for nearly an hour before Goku finally slowed, the golden energy gradually reabsorbing into his body as he completed the final movements of what appeared to be an elaborate martial arts kata. When he opened his eyes, they shone with newfound understanding. I remember, he said simply, looking at his hands as if seeing them for the first time. Not everything, but enough. My grandfather taught me these forms, though we never used spiritual energy with them. They're called, he hesitated, searching for the word, kata. Martial arts patterns that train the body and spirit together. The memories of your life before Soul Society are returning. Rukia asked, surprised by this development. Fragments, Goku replied, his expression thoughtful. When I moved in those patterns, it was like reconnecting with something essential I'd forgotten. My grandfather, the mountains, the training, it was all about harmony between body and spirit, though we never called it Keto. Chi-Chi approached the circle, her scientific curiosity overcoming traditional reservations. These forms, they're unlike any Shinigami combat technique I've studied, yet they channel spiritual energy with remarkable efficiency. Her tone held reluctant admiration. Perhaps there is merit in exploring alternative approaches. Does this mean I don't have to memorize all those long incantations? Goku asked hopefully. Chi-Chi's momentary openness immediately reverted to stern determination. Absolutely not. Understanding your natural spiritual language doesn't exempt you from learning proper Shinigami techniques. It simply means we must adapt our teaching methods to accommodate your unique circumstances. Yoruichi's lips curved in amusement. Translation. We'll create hybrid techniques that bridge your natural abilities with standard Shinigami arts. A reasonable compromise, Rukia agreed, practical as always. Spiritual effectiveness combined with tactical versatility. For the remainder of the day, they worked within the resonance circle, with Chi-Chi documenting each of Goku's natural spiritual movements and identifying corresponding traditional Keto effects. Yoruichi focused on helping Goku refine the physical forms, her expertise in Hakuta perfectly complementing his instinctual martial arts style. Rukia provided tactical perspective, Sugas, Ting combat applications and limitations for each technique they discovered. As evening approached, they had compiled a preliminary catalog of Goku's natural spiritual language, 15 distinct movements that produced specific energy effects without incantations. Chi-Chi had meticulously recorded each in a leather-bound journal, complete with diagrams and theoretical explanations that would have impressed even the Keto Corps commanders. This is merely the beginning, she informed Goku as they prepared to conclude the day's training. Tomorrow we start developing hybrid techniques that merge your natural movements with traditional Keto principles. Expect the work to be twice as demanding. Rather than being discouraged, Goku's eyes lit with excitement. So I'll be learning 2 spiritual languages at once. That sounds challenging. Chi-Chi blinked, momentarily taken aback by his enthusiasm for what most would consider punishing training. Why yes, exactly. The integration process Riku, Iris exceptional concentration and spiritual sensitivity. Can't wait. Goku replied with genuine eagerness that caused Chi-Chi's stern expression to falter briefly. As they gathered their equipment to depart, Rukia noticed how Chi-Chi's gaze lingered on Goku longer than strictly necessary for professional assessment. The Keto Corps instructor had arrived 3 days ago viewing Goku as a problematic student requiring correction. Now, beneath her disciplined exterior, curiosity and something like respect had begun to emerge. Interesting, Rukia thought, recognizing the subtle shift. Goku's meant to have that effect on people, gradually transforming initial skepticism into reluctant appreciation through his combination of guileless sincerity and surprising depth. Rukia herself had experienced a similar evolution in her assessment of him. What she had first dismissed as reckless disregard for tradition, she now recognized as authentic spiritual expression. His methods might be unorthodox, but his heart remained true to the core principles that defined a Shinigami's purpose, protection, balance, and growth. As they prepared to pass through the shadowed gate to return to Soul Society proper, a sharp chime cut through the cavern's ambient sounds. Yoruichi withdrew a small communication device from within her uniform, a modified soul pager that bypassed standard Gote 13 channels. Her expression darkened as she read the message. We need to return immediately. There's been an incident in Rukongai's 43rd district. Multiple hollow signatures have been detected, including several T-hat match the hybrid type we encountered in Karakura town. Rukia immediately shifted to combat readiness. Casualties unknown, Yoruichi replied grimly. The message is from Kazuki's network, not official Gote 13 communications. Which means the response may be delayed due to information not flowing through proper channels. The 43rd district, Chi-Chi noted with concern. That's primarily a residential area with limited Shinigami presence. Then we should go help, Goku stated simply, already moving toward the gate. That's what Shinigami are supposed to do, right? Protect souls from hollows. Yoruichi's golden eyes assessed him thoughtfully. This isn't a training exercise, troublemaker. These hybrid hollows are dangerous, and your techniques are still experimental. All the more reason to test them in real combat, Goku replied with unexpected seriousness. Besides, people are in danger right now. Debating whether I'm ready doesn't help them. Rukia and Chi-Chi exchanged glances, both recognizing the truth in his words despite professional reservations. He's right, Rukia acknowledged. If official responses are delayed, civilians are at risk. As Shinigami, our duty is clear. Chi-Chi adjusted her hairpins with precise movements that betrayed her tension. The Shiba clan has always maintained strong connections to Rukongai. I cannot ignore a threat to those under our informal protection. She fixed Goku with a stern look. But you will follow our tactical lead and exercise appropriate caution. This is not an opportunity for reckless heroics. Understood. Goku agreed with uncharacteristic solemnity. Protect people first, fight smart, save the showing off for training. The gravity of his response satisfied even Chi-Chi's exacting standards. With a nod to Yoruichi, she moved toward the shadowed gate, already beginning a mental review of combat Kido sequences suitable for unknown hollow variants. As they passed through the dimensional barrier back to Soul Society proper, Yoruichi placed a hand on Goku's shoulder, her expression both proud and concerned. Remember your training today. Trust your natural spiritual language rather than forcing techniques that don't align with your energy. In real combat, authenticity trumps tradition. Goku nodded, Nioibo already in his hand as they emerged into the bamboo forest beyond the gateway. In the distance, faint screams and the distinctive spiritual pressure of hollows tainted the evening air. Let's go, he said simply, and the four Shinigami flashed toward the disturbance, their diverse abilities about to be tested against a threat none of them fully understood. The 43rd district of Rukongai, known as Sukihana for the crescent-shaped river that curved through its center, had been among the more peaceful areas outside Seraite. Unlike the lawless outer districts where Goku had first awoken, Sukihana maintained orderly streets, functional commerce, and a relatively street-able population who had adapted well to afterlife existence. Now, chaos reigned. Buildings burned with unnatural black flames that resisted conventional suppression. Civilians fled in disorganized panic, some trampled in the confusion. Most disturbing were the hollows, not the mindless predators typically encountered in Soul Society incursions, but organized squads moving with tactical precision to herd civilians into containment areas. From their vantage point atop a hillside overlooking the district, the four Shinigami assessed the situation with growing concern. 15 standard hollows, 5 Jillian-class Manos, and 3 of the hybrid types, Yoruichi counted, her experienced eyes cataloging threats with military precision. They're isolating the population center and establishing a perimeter. This isn't random feeding, it's a coordinated operation. But to what purpose? Rukia questioned, her hand already on Soda no Shirayuki's hilt. Hollows consume souls for sustenance or evolution. This systematic herding behavior serves neither objective. Chi-Chi's analytical mind quickly identified the pattern. They're sorting the civilians by spiritual pressure. Look, the collectee on points are divided based on Ryutsu levels. Her eyes narrowed in professional outrage. They're treating souls like livestock to be culled and categorized. Goku's usual carefree expression had vanished, replaced by focused intensity as he watched a hollow drag a screaming child toward one of the collection areas. We need to stop this now, he stated, his spiritual pressure rising unconsciously with his determination. Yoruichi, what's the plan? The Flash Goddess evaluated their options with centuries of tactical experience. Rukia, focus on civilian evacuation. Your ice techniques can create barriers to guide them to safety while immobilizing standard hollows. Chi-Chi, target the Jillians with your high-level Kido, their size makes them dangerous but predictable. Goku and I will engage the hybrids directly. Splitting our forces is risky, Chi-Chi observed, though she didn't disagree with the strategy. Standard protocol would dictate waiting for reinforcements. Every minute we delay, souls are lost. Rukia countered, already drawing her Zanpakuto. Protocol serves purpose, not the other way around. Well said, Kuchiki, Yoruichi approved with a grim smile. Maintain communication via spiritual pressure pulses, 3 short bursts for emergency assistance. Move out. They separated with fluid coordination, each heading toward their assigned targets. Rukia flash STE. PPED directly to the largest concentration of civilians, where a group of children and elderly souls huddled in a partially collapsed building, standard hollows circling outside like wolves around wounded prey. Dance, Soda no Shirayuki. She commanded, her Zanpakuto transforming into its released state. The temperature around her dropped dramatically as she executed her first technique. Some no Mai, Tsukashiro. A perfect circle of ice formed beneath the nearest hollows, extending upward in a column that engulfed them completely before shattering, taking the creatures with it. Without pausing, Rukia created an ice path leading away from the danger zone. Follow this route, she ordered the frightened souls. It will lead you to the eastern forest boundary. Do not deviate. As the civilians began their escape, Rukia turned her attention to the remaining hollows, her movements graceful but lethal as she systematically cleared a safe evacuation corridor. Unlike Goku's raw power or Yoruichi's blinding speed, Rukia's combat style emphasized precision and efficiency, no wasted motion, no excessive force, just perfect execution of techniques honed through decades of disciplined practice. Across the district, Chi-Chi faced the lumbering Jillian-class Manos with appropriate professional detachment. Where most Shinigami would feel at least a flicker of intimidation before the towering hollows, she displayed only focused concentration as she prepared her attack. Bakudo number 63. Seijo Sabaku, she intoned, her perfect pronunciation giving the Kido spell maximum efficiency. Golden CH. Ains of energy erupted from her extended hands, wrapping around the nearest Jillian and temporarily immobilizing it. Without pausing, she immediately began a more complex incantation, her voice rising. G in musical cadence as she layered multiple Kido spells in rapid succession, sprinkled on the bones of the beast. Sharp tower, red crystal, steel ring. Move and become the wind, stop and become the calm. The sound of warring spears fills the empty castle. Hado number 63, Reikoho. A massive blast of electrical energy struck the immobilized Jillian, the binding spell ensuring the destructive force concentrated precisely where Chi-Chi intended. The hollow's mask cracked under the assault, the creature dissolving into spirit particles without even time to scream. The remaining Jillians turned their attention to this new threat, massive jaws opening to generate their signature Sero blasts. Chi-Chi's response was not retreat but advance, her hands moving through complex gestures as she wove multi-ple Kido spells simultaneously, a technique few outside the specialized Kido Corps could manage. Hado number 58, Tenrin. A tornado-like vortex erupted from her palm, disrupting the forming Seros and destabilizing the Jillians' massive bodies. She followed immediately with Bakudo number 61, Raikujokuro. 6 bars of light slammed into each Jillian, paralyzing them in place. Chi-Chi's combat style revealed her true nature beyond the stern instructor facade, a prodigy whose understanding of spiritual mechanics allowed her to combine Kido techniques in ways that transcended standard classifications. Where most Shinigami relied on raw power for higher-level spells, she achieved devastating effects through precision timing and strategic combinations of lower-level techniques. Meanwhile, Yoruichi and Goku confronted the hybrid hollows directly, their complementary abilities making them a formidable team despite limited practice fighting together. Yoruichi's flash step allowed her to appear and disappear around the hybrids. Her Hakuta strikes targeting vulnerable points while avoiding their corrupted Zanpakuto. They're more coordinated than the one in Karakura town, she called to Goku as she Roly evaded a Sero blast that possessed unusual tracking ability. These aren't just experiments, they're refined weapons. Goku nodded in understanding, Nioibo extended as he blocked a strike from one hybrid while dodging another's attack. They feel different too, less hollow, more Shinigami. Like the balance shifted, his observation proved tactically valuable as he adjusted his approach, aiding the hybrids more like corrupted Shinigami than evolved hollows. Instead of overwhelming force, he employed the techniques discovered in the resonance circle hours earlier, flowing movements that channeled spiritual energy in unpredictable patterns the hybrids couldn't anticipate. A circular sweep of his staff, enhanced by the spinning energy technique he'd practiced, created a golden disc that sliced through a hybrid's guard, temporarily disrupting its spiritual pressure. Goku followed with a two-fingered strike to its mask, the concentrated energy penetrating the protective surface with surgical precision. Their masks are different from regular hollows, he called to Yoruichi as the hybrid recoiled, black ichor seeping from the crack his strike had created. Hit the fault lines between the fragments. Yoruichi immediately adapted her attack pattern, her next strike targeting the exact point Goku had identified. The hybrid's mask shattered completely, revealing a partially humanoid face twisted with pain and rage. Without its protective covering, the creature's spiritual pressure destabilized rapidly, its body dissolving into particles that scattered on the evening breeze. One down, Yoruichi noted grimly. 2 to go. The remaining hybrids, witnessing their comrades' destruction, changed tactics. Instead of engaging directly, they retreated toward the civilian collection areas, clearly intending to use hostages as shields. They're too intelligent for standard hollows, Goku observed as they pursued. Someone's controlling them. The question is who, and how, Yoruichi agreed, her golden eyes scanning the chaotic battlefield for signs of a commander. Their answer came unexpectedly. As they approached the largest collection area, a new spiritual pressure manifested, heavier, more refined, and distinctly different from the hybrid hollows they'd been fighting. A figure in a white coat materialized atop a damaged building, face obscured by a hood but stance unmistakably humanoid. Fascinating specimens, the figure remarked, voice distorted as if speaking through multiple throats simultaneously. Such diverse spiritual compositions, each with unique potential. Yoruichi halted her pursuit, signaling Goku to do the same. You're the one creating these abominations, she stated, her tone conveying certainty rather than question. Abominations. The figure tilted its hooded head. How disappointingly conventional, Flash Goddess. I expected more progressive thinking from one who defied Soul Society's stagnant traditions. The familiarity which the figure addressed Yoruichi suggested personal knowledge beyond general reputation. Goku shifted subtly into a defensive stance, sensing danger beyond the obvious threat. Who are you? He demanded, Nioibo held ready. The figure's attention shifted to Goku, an almost palpable intensity focusing on him despite the concealed face. Ah, the anomaly himself. Your spiritual signature is Eve. And more remarkable in person than in our samples. You're the one who sent that hollow to Karakura town, Goku realized. You've been targeting me specifically. Not targeting, studying, the figure corrected, gesturing expansively. Just as I'm studying all of Soul Society's unique spiritual variations. The rigid classifications of Shinigami and hollow are artificial constructs that limit our understanding of soul potential. Chi-Chi appeared beside them in a flash of Shunpo, the Jillian's dispatched and her attention now on this new threat. Such experimentation violates the fundamental laws of soul balance, she stated. Her voice cold with controlled fury. The Keto Core has ancient protocols for dealing with such transgressions. The Keto Core, the figure scoffed. Keepers of knowledge they barely understand. Preserving techniques whose true purposes they've forgotten. A note of something like pity entered the distorted voice. You recite incantations whose original meanings were lost centuries ago. Shiba prodigy. Chi-Chi stiffened at this direct address, her hands instinctively forming the first gestures of a binding spell. How do you know who I am? I know all of you, the figure replied simply. Yoruichi Shihoin, exiled nobility who chose freedom over duty. Rukia Kuchiki, adopted into privilege yet never truly accepted. Chi-Chi Shiba, prodigy burdened by family expectations. The hood turned back to Goku. And you, the soul who shouldn't exist, at least not in this form. The casual revelation of personal knowledge unsettled them all, but before they could respond, Rukia joined their group, having secured the civilian evacuation routes. The standard hollows have been eliminated, she reported, quickly assessing the new situation. Is this our puppet master? Not a master, a pioneer. The figure corrected, and today was most informative. Your combat adaptability against my creations provided valuable data. A gesture of one gloved hand signaled the remaining hybrids, who immediately ceased their attacks and gathered behind their commander. You're retreating. Yoruichi questioned, suspicious of the sudden disengagement. This was never an invasion. Merely a field test and data collection exercise, the figure explained with clinical detachment that chilled more than anger would have. Though I admit, your intervention accelerated my timeline somewhat. You used innocent souls as test subjects, Goku stated, righteous anger evident in his voice. People died here today for your data collection. A regrettable necessity in pursuit of transcendence. The figure acknowledged without remorse. Evolution requires sacrifice. A concept soul society understood once, before it became obsessed with stagnant equilibrium. Chi-Chi's patience reached its limit. Enough philosophical justification for atrocity, she declared, completing the complex Kido gesture sequence she'd been subtly preparing. Bakudo number 75, Gochuteken. Five massive pillars of iron materialized above the figure, connected by chains of spiritual energy and descending with crushing force. It was a high-level restraint technique that would immobilize Eve N captain-class opponents. Yet the hooded figure merely raised one hand, and the pillars dissolved into particles before making contact. Impressive execution, if somewhat predictable, the figure commented mildly. But conventional Kido cannot contain unconventional spiritual entities. Without warning, Yoruichi Flash stepped directly toward the figure, her speed so great she seemed to disappear entirely before reappearing with her fist centimeters from the concealed face. Yet instead of connecting, her attack passed through the figure as if striking smoke, her momentum carrying her through the now dissolving form. A projection, she realized, landing gracefully on the rooftop as the figure reassembled several meters away. Did you think I would risk direct confrontation prematurely? The amusement in the distorted voice was evident. This is merely the first movement in a much longer composition, Flash Goddess. The figure began to fade, its spiritual pressure dispersing gradually. Until our next encounter. Consider this. The boundaries between Hollow and Shinigami were never as absolute as Soul Society taught you. The truth of soul evolution lies in integration, not separation. As the projection vanished completely, the remaining hybrid hollows collapsed simultaneously, their bodies dissolving into spirit particles that flowed upward in an unnatural spiral before disappearing into the night sky. Silence fell over the battered district, broken only by the distant cries of injured civilians and the crackling of fires still burning in damaged buildings. The four Shinigami gathered on the rooftop, each processing what they had witnessed in their own way. This was coordinated, resourced, and executed with inside knowledge of Soul Society, Yoruichi summarized grimly. Whoever our hooded friend is, they have access to restricted information about all of us. The spiritual techniques displayed weren't standard Shinigami Kido, Chi-Chi added, her professional assessment overriding personal concerns. The hollow dissolution pattern resembled advanced Kido core binding arts, but inverted, as if designed to manipulate spiritual entities rather than merely contain them. Rukia's violet eyes narrowed in thought. The figure spoke of transcendence and evolution in terms that echo historical heresy, specifically the boundary violation theories that led to the exile of former captains a century ago. They're targeting specific souls based on spiritual composition, Goku observed, his natural insight cutting to the practical core of the situation. Quote, the civilians weren't random victims, they were being sorted by spiritual type. Yoruichi nodded in agreement. Specimens for further experimentation, most likely. Which means this attack, while destructive, was merely preparatory for something larger. We need to report this to Captain Yukitake and the Captain Commander immediately, Rukia stated, already calculating the most efficient way to organize the information they'd gathered. Not through standard channels, Yoruichi cautioned. If our opponent has access to classified Shinigami information, official communications may be compromised. Chi-Chi straightened her uniform, which remained immaculate despite the intense combat she'd engaged in. The Shiba clan maintains private communication networks independent of Gote 13 oversight. I can ensure our report reaches appropriate authorities securely. As they prepared to assist with civilian recovery efforts before returning to Seraite, Goku remained uncharacteristically quiet. His gaze fixed on the spot where the hooded figure had stood. What's troubling you, troublemaker? Yoruichi asked, noticing his unusual contemplation. That person knew me, Goku replied slowly. Quote, not just my name or abilities, they knew what I am, even though I don't fully understand it myself. He looked at Yoruichi, his expression serious. They called me the soul who shouldn't exist, at least not in this form. What did they mean? The question hung in the air, none of them having a satisfactory answer. Even Yoruichi, with her extensive knowledge of Soul Society's secrets, seemed momentarily at a loss. Whatever they meant, Rukia finally said, her voice firm with conviction, it doesn't change who you are now or what you've chosen to become. Actions define identity more than origins. Kuchiki is correct, Chi-Chi added with unexpected support. Your unconventional spiritual composition doesn't diminish your evident commitment to protecting others. Today you fought with honor and purpose, regardless of how your soul began its journey. Their words visibly lifted Goku's spirits, his characteristic optimism returning. You're right, and now that we know there's a specific threat, we can train more effectively to counter it. He gripped Nyoibo with renewed determination, starting with mastering these new techniques properly. As they descended to assist the injured civilians, Yoruichi hung back momentarily, her golden eyes scanning the horizon thoughtfully. The hooded figure's familiarity with her personal history suggested connections to her past, connections she had thought severed a century ago when she fled Soul Society with Kazuki and Tessai. The implications were troubling. If someone was continuing Kazuki's boundary violation research he had abandoned after witnessing its devastating consequences, then Soul Society faced a threat potentially more dangerous than any hollow invasion. And Goku, with his unique spiritual composition, stood at the center of whatever plans this mysterious experimenter was developing. Her protective instincts, normally reserved for a very small circle of longtime associates, had somehow expanded to include this strange, guileless soul who combined childlike wonder with occasional flashes of profound wisdom. Whatever was coming, she would ensure he had every tool and technique needed to face it, conventional or otherwise. With that silent promise, she flash-stepped to join the others, already planning the next phase of training that would build on today's discoveries and prepare them for the battles that inevitably lay ahead. 3 days later, in a secluded courtyard within the 13th Division, Goku sat cross-legged before a small ornamental pond, Nyoibo laid across his knees as he attempted to implement Chi-Chi's latest training directive. The water's surface reflected his image, rippling occasionally despite the absence of wind, disturbances caused by the fluctuations in his spiritual pressure as he worked to maintain perfect stability. Your energy still pulses unnecessarily, Chi-Chi observed from where she stood at the courtyard's edge, her posture perfect as always. Spiritu. Equilibrium requires consistent output, not cyclical surges. Since the incident in the 43rd district, Chi-Chi's approach to training had evolved subtly. While still demanding and formal, she now focused on adapting techniques to complement Goku's natural tendencies rather than forcing him into traditional frameworks. The change represented significant professional flexibility from someone so deeply rooted in Kido core orthodoxy. I'm trying, Goku replied, his usual cheerfulness tempered by genuine concentration. But it feels like trying to make a river flow in a straight line. My energy naturally wants to pulse and cycle. Chi-Chi considered this analogy with surprising patience. Perhaps the objective is misframed. Instead of forcing constancy, try synchronizing the natural cycles into a predictable rhythm. She approached, kneeling gracefully beside the pond. With a precise gesture, she touched the water's surface, creating deliberate ripples that expanded in perfect concentric circles. Spiritual energy, like water, can flow in many patterns, she explained, her tone shifting from instructor to collaborator. The Shiba clan techniques recognize this fundamental truth. Rather than imposing artificial constancy, we harmonize with natural rhythms. Goku watched the ripples with newfound understanding. So instead of fighting against my energy's natural cycles, I organize them into deliberate patterns. Precisely, Chi-Chi confirmed, genuine approval warming her typically stern expression. Begin by identifying your spiritual pressure's natural frequency. Then establish conscious control over that rhythm. Goku closed his eyes, focusing inward to sense the pulsing flow of his spiritual energy. As Chi-Chi had suggested, there was indeed a pattern, a cyclical surge and recede that resembled breathing or heartbeats. Rather than suppressing these fluctuations as previous training had attempted, he now worked to recognize their natural timing. I feel it, he murmured. A small smile forming as understanding dawned. It's like a heartbeat, but not quite, more like the rhythm when performing a kata, with moments of tension and release. Martial rhythm, Chi nodded. Professional interest evident in her voice. The Shiba archives mention ancient warriors who synchronized their spiritual pressure with combat movements to achieve extraordinary effects. Few modern Shinigami retain this connection between physical and spiritual cadence. As Goku continued the exercise, gradually gaining conscious awareness of his energy's natural patterns, Rukia entered the courtyard. Accompanied by Captain Jashiro Yukitake. The white-haired captain moved with characteristic grace that belied his chronic illness, his kind eyes taking in the training scene with evident approval. Shiba-san, he greeted Chi with gentle formality. I see you've discovered our friend's rhythmic spiritual nature. Most illuminating. Chi rose immediately, bowing deeply to the respected captain. Captain Yukitake. Yes, we've identified a cyclical pattern that explains his difficulty with standard Kido equilibrium techniques. I've adjusted the training accordingly. Excellent initiative, Yukitake commended, his smile reaching his eyes. Adaptation rather than conformity often yields the most remarkable results. He turned his attention to Goku, who had opened his eyes at the captain's arrival. And how are you finding your specialized training, Goku-san? Much better now that we're working with my natural energy patterns instead of against them, Goku replied honestly. Rising to his feet with Nyoibo in hand. Chi is an amazing teacher once she stopped trying to make me do things the proper way. Chi-Chi's cheeks colored slightly at the direct compliment. Her composure momentarily disrupted. I merely adapted standard methodologies to accommodate unorthodox spiritual composition, she stated formally, though the slight softening arrow. Her eyes betrayed her pleasure at the recognition. Yukitake chuckled softly. Flexibility in instruction often reveals as much about the teacher as the student. His expression became more serious as he addressed all three of them. I've received your report about the incident in the 43rd district through the Shiba channels. Most concerning developments. Has there been any progress identifying the hooded figure? Rukia inquired, ever focused on practical matters. Nothing conclusive, Yukitake replied with gentle regret. Though Captain Kuretsuchi's analysis of the residual spiritual paw article suggests advanced modification of standard Shinigami techniques, possibly influenced by forbidden boundary violation research. Chi-Chi's posture stiffened at the mention of forbidden research. The Kido Core archives contain warnings about such experimentation. The spiritual consequences extend beyond the immediate subjects to the fundamental fabric of soul society itself. Precisely why the Captain Commander has authorized expanded resources for your training program, Yukitake explained, his gaze returning to Goku. Whatever our mysterious antagonist is planning, they have demons. Traded specific interest in your unique spiritual composition, Goku-san. Preparing you to face this threat has become a priority. Does that mean more teachers? Goku asked, characteristically focusing on the practical training implications rather than the ominous threat assessment. Indeed, Yukitake confirmed with a gentle smile. Beginning tomorrow, your training circle will expand to include expertise from the 12th Division's Research Bureau. Chi and Rukia exchanged concerned glances at this revelation. Captain, Rukia ventured carefully, given Captain Kuretsuchi's intense scientific curiosity. Is direct 12th Division involvement wise? The security implications alone. Not to worry, Kuchiki-san, Yukitake assured her. I've specifically requested 3rd Seat Tension as the 12th Division representative. Her scientific expertise will complement Shiba-san's Kido knowledge without the more invasive methodologies her captain might employ. Bulma's joining the training team. Goku's face lit up with genuine enthusiasm. That's great. She always has interesting ideas about how spiritual energy works. Chi-Chi's brow furrowed slightly. The scientist who designed monitoring equipment that exploded during your early training. Her theoretical approach seems questionably aligned with practical combat applications. On the contrary, Yukitake countered gently. Tenshin-san's theoretical understanding of spiritual mechanics may provide exactly the bridge needed between your traditional Kido expertise and Goku-san's unconventional energy patterns. Science and tradition, working in harmony rather than opposition. The captain's diplomatic framing softened Chi-Chi's reservations, though a hint of professional territoriality remained visible in her precise posture. Of course, Captain, A multidisciplinary approach has merit for such an unusual case. Excellent. Yukitake smiled warmly. I believe you'll find Tenshin-san's perspective refreshingly practical despite her scientific background. She's developed quite an interest in Goku-san's unique spiritual composition. As if summoned by mention of her name, Bulma Tenshin appeared at the courtyard entrance. Her arms laden with various devices and scrolls. Unlike her previous visits, she now wore a modified Shinigami uniform that combined traditional elements with practical adaptations, multiple pockets, reinforced fabric, and specialized holders for her scientific instruments. Captain Yukitake, she greeted with a respectful bow, managing not to drop her precarious stack of equipment. I hope I'm not interrupting. I received your authorization this morning and wanted to begin integrations immediately. Your enthusiasm is commendable, Tenshin-san, Yukitake replied with gentle amusement. Though perhaps slightly premature, as I was just informing the training team of your addition. Bulma's confident expression faltered slightly as she realized she had arrived before the official announcement. Ah, my apologies for the presumption. She turned to Chi-Chi with professional courtesy. Shiba-san, I've reviewed your training methodology and prepared several integration proposals to preserve the integrity of traditional Kido while accommodating Goku's unique spiritual resonance patterns. The immediate technical acknowledgement of her work seemed to mollify Chi-Chi's initial reservations. Your attention to foundational principles is appreciated, Tenshin-san. Too often, scientific innovation disregards established spiritual wisdom. Science without context is just trivia. Bulma replied with surprising philosophical depth. Understanding the why behind traditional practices often reveals engineering principles our ancestors intuited without modern terminology. T.'s perspective clearly resonated with Chi-Chi, whose rigid posture relaxed slightly. Perhaps we should review your proposals while Kuchiki-san continues Goku's Zanpakuto meditation exercises. Excellent suggestion, Yukitake approved. Pleased by the professionals, quick adaptation. I'll leave you to your work while I attend to division matters. Kuchiki-san, a moment of your time before you begin. As Rukia followed her captain from the courtyard, Chi-Chi and Bulma immediately fell into technical discussion, spreading diagrams across a stone bench and comparing notes with the focused intensity of specialists finding unexpected common ground. Goku watched this development with quiet satisfaction. Though he might not understand the complex spiritual theories they discussed, he recognized the importance of the bridge being built between traditional Kido wisdom and innovative scientific application. Each woman brought distinct perspectives that, combined, might create approaches neither could develop alone. He returned to his position by the pond, Nyoibo across his knees, and resumed his meditation. The Zanpakuto hummed with subtle energy, responding to his improved understanding of his own spiritual rhythms. In his mind's eye, the misty landscape of his inner world grew slightly clearer, the shadowy figure of his Zanpakuto spirit more defined with each session. We're getting closer to understanding each other, aren't we? He whispered to the staff. And just in time, from the sound of things. The Zanpakuto pulsed once in response, a sense of agreement flowing through their connection. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, growing stronger with each obstacle overcome. And now, with the combined expertise of Yoruichi's combat mastery, Chi-Chi's Kido knowledge, Rukia's Zanpakuto wisdom, and Bulma's scientific insight supporting his development, Goku felt a quiet confidence building. The hooded figure had called him, the soul who shouldn't exist. Perhaps it was time to show them exactly what such a soul could become when surrounded by those who helped it flourish rather than those who sought to exploit it. With that determination burning in his heart, Goku deepened his meditation, his spiritual pressure settling into the natural rhythm Chi-Chi had helped him identify, not forced into artificial stability, but flowing in harmonious cycles that reflected his true nature. The water in the pond before him began to ripple in perfect synchronization with these cycles, creating patterns that extended outward with growing strength and precision. From across the courtyard, Chi-Chi paused in her technical discussion with Bulma to observe this development, quiet approval evident in her usually stern expression. Progress, she murmured, more to herself than her scientific colleague. Unconventional, but undeniable. That's Goku, Bulma replied with a knowing smile. Defying expectations while somehow fulfilling them in ways no one anticipated. As the two women returned to their collaboration, the foundation for a new approach to spiritual training began to take shape, one that would draw on ancient wisdom and cutting-edge innovation alike to prepare a uniquely gifted soul for challenges no standard Shinigami had ever faced. In the gentle harmony of that courtyard, with cherry blossoms drifting on the spring breeze and spiritual energies flowing in newfound synchronization, the next chapter in their journey together began to unfold. Chapter 3 End. The End. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.